Warhammer x LOTM, The Black Emperor by Jiao Chao Mo. Chapter 501-522. Chapter 501, Ning Lu, I only send 2 battle groups. Iron Blood, Bridge. Captain Bogdat Wad, half machine, sat on the command throne. His body had undergone targeted modifications to suit his duties as captain, and he was fully integrated with the command throne. Sir, it will take 25 hours and 36 minutes of standard ship time. His voice, as mechanical as a Mechanicus sound synthesizer, sounded more like Perturbo's stony coldness. I want you to execute the voyage plan perfectly, arriving earlier than scheduled. Perturbo's voice was like frozen rock. The plasma reactor will operate at 1.5 times standard, increasing output power to 1.49 times. Estimated arrival is in 21 hours and 25 minutes of standard time. Plasma reactor maintenance time will increase by 36 hours. Execute. Perturbo coldly interrupted Bogdat's report. As you command, Iron Lord. 21 standard hours later, Perturbo and his trident arrived on the flight deck. Perturbo's ice-blue eyes gazed at the iron-gray Skyhawk shuttle before him. Change it. Phrixus, the first company captain and warsmith, the blade of the trident, asked cautiously. Are we taking a Stormbird? Yes. Perturbo offered no explanation, and the trident exchanged glances. The battle was over. For traveling to a brother legion, a Skyhawk shuttle was more suitable than a Stormbird. Father had previously been very satisfied with his personally designed work, but now he wanted to switch to a Stormbird. It was unusual. The three became even more certain that Father was displeased. Servitors moved quickly and silently. They dragged fuel lines to inject into the Stormbird and released the gravity locks. The Stormbird gunship roared as it entered the main elevator platform, its atmospheric engines already primed. The outer shields of the hangar opened, and Perturbo and the Trident successively entered the Stormbird via the boarding ramp. As soon as the Trident sat down, they immediately fastened their seatbelts. Perturbo walked directly to the front of the Stormbird's crew compartment. Depart. With his command, even though the piston closing the hatch was still operating, the gunship was already surging upwards. The heavy airtight doors of the hangar slowly opened, revealing the void and a fleet of black warships. Perturbo's ice-blue eyes swept across the void, then shifted his gaze. A series of numbers appeared in his mind. Open black lens bracket building a Stargate system with Olympia as its core consumed resources, requiring 470 years. New construction takes much longer than repairs. Close black lens bracket. Perturbo's ice-blue eyes grew a little darker. He could design a new Stargate navigation system, but considering the resources and time consumed, it was unrealistic, and he would not get support from the War Council. The Stormbird slowly landed on the Wangquan Shadow's helipad, its gravity locks attaching to the iron-gray fuselage. Perturbo stepped onto the deck and immediately saw Ning Lu's original body servant, Arsena Dun. Lord Perturbo, take me to Ning Lu. Perturbo interrupted the original body servant, commanding coldly. Arsena paused for a moment, then said, as you wish. Moments later, Perturbo entered the Primarch's palace, seeing the obsidian supporting the dome tilted chaotically, with 12 metal rods and battle group banners arranged asymmetrically. He quickened his pace, open black lens bracket end this quickly, close black lens bracket. Before he reached Ning Lu, his dreadlocks swung. Ning Lu, since the Battle of Shayna is over. The Gene Seed Primarch keenly sensed the low atmosphere surrounding Perturbo. His black pupils met the ice-blue eyes, and he immediately understood the reason for Perturbo's displeasure. Ning Lu smiled slightly. No, the Battle of Shayna is just the beginning. We are facing a powerful Xenos alliance. Your arrival will herald the start of our counterattack. Perturbo's icy eyes lit up. He was not late. He still had a chance to smash the hammer of Olympia upon the Xenos. Perturbo's dreadlocks settled down. Tell me about the Xenos situation, and I will formulate a battle plan. Arsena, display the intelligence sent by Captain Bogle of the Star Hunter. As you wish. Arsena saw Perturbo calmly take his seat and raised his control staff. A star map of the Vice sector was projected before Perturabo and his trident, and the dense red markers caught their attention. Sir, as you can see, the colonial worlds of the Vice sector are suffering a full-scale Xenos invasion. Millions of humans are enslaved by the Xenos, their minds bound by neural collars. The Star Hunter observed an artificial war satellite appearing in the Campinas system. Phrixus listened to the detailed report, feeling inexplicably strange. His eyes were downcast, and after pondering for 10 seconds, he realized what made him feel strange. The intelligence was too detailed. This was not the Star Hunter's modus operandi. The Star Hunter was unique, disregarding any orders given to them by anyone other than the Emperor. Even if Lord Perturabo, Lord Horus, and the Hand Imprinter issued orders, they would not obey. Even though Lord Ning Lu rescued the 33rd Company, they would not conduct such detailed reconnaissance. They would only send a few brief reports, then, like wild horses, they would disappear from sight, wandering off to who knows where. Open black lens bracket. It's too strange. How did Lord Ning Lu manage to make those unrestrained Star Hunter obey his commands? He also always manages to calm Lord Perturabo, extraordinary charm, close black lens bracket. Perturabo ignored the abnormal behavior of the Star Hunter's 33rd Company, converting the information Arsena presented into a series of data points. Only when the original body servant stopped reporting did he look at Ning Lu. How many forces can your Order Shadows deploy in the Vice sector? Ning Lu met the ice blue eyes, seeing a bright spark within them. He knew Perturabo wanted to prove himself, and he should provide this opportunity, so his deployed forces could not exceed the Iron Warriors. Open black lens bracket. Because of my appearance, the 4th Legion did not suffer heavy losses during the liberation of Incaladian, and Perturabo did not carry out the culling of the 11th, so the Iron Warriors likely number 70 to 80,000 now. However, the Iron Warriors build fortresses and leave a garrison force on every conquered world, which is no small burden and one of the reasons Perturabo will be dragged down in the future. The forces the Iron Warriors can deploy will not exceed 70,000. To avoid any surprises, let's conservatively estimate 50,000. Close black lens bracket. Ning Lu thought of this and said, "My legion has just been through a major battle and needs to rest. I will send the 2nd and 4th battle groups, 50,000 strong, to join the war to reclaim the Vice sector." The combined forces of the 2nd and 4th battle groups gathered in the Carium Gate area exceeded 60,000, and 4 other battle groups had also completed their assembly and were not deployed in the Shayna operation. Ning Lu not only considered Perturabo's desire to win glory and prove himself but also had to consider Ran Dan from other directions, especially the northeastern galaxy, his territory, the Colony Ned New district. He remembered the Xenos race Basmi Manik, who, during the Second Randan War, were invaded by Ran Dan and fled desperately into the Imperium. Perturabo stood up and walked to the holographic projection. "Now, it is time for us to discuss the operational plan for the Vice sector." Phrixus stood behind Perturabo, with the other 2 Trident members, Harkle and Gorg, behind him. Ning Lu walked to his side, tapping his finger on the Gildas star system, highlighting the area. The Tech Guard of Shayna will launch an attack on this star system. This is their revenge against the Xenos. Chapter 502. Not a sage, yet possessing his own sage throne. On the Worthy Shadow, Primarch's palace. It was the 3rd day since Perturabo arrived in the Shayna star system. Perturabo's ice blue eyes moved away from the holographic projection, which was covered in star-like runes and data symbols, and he looked at Ning Lu. "Tactical simulations have verified our plan." Ning Lu glanced at the stacks of data slates neatly piled in front of Phrixus and the other 2, and he gave Perturabo a chance to perform. Perturabo had taken the lead in formulating the plan to attack the Vice sector. For this, he meticulously examined all data and systematically completed the planning. He had meticulously charted the Imperial fleet's routes, the timing for launching the attack, the battle's end time, and the food and ammunition resupply for each wave of troop transports and landing craft at the transfer points. Ning Lu scrutinized the entire battle plan. It seemed perfect, yet he keenly sensed an imperceptible shadow lurking within this perfection. He looked at the shining ice-blue eyes. Our understanding of Randan is still limited, the plan should retain flexibility. Everything is under control, no factor can disrupt the battle plan. Even the Xenos you mentioned, the Bone Eater, I will create weapons to strike them down. Ning Lu looked at the stubborn Perturabo and said nothing more. He believed in Perturabo's technical creativity, which even Dora Cole couldn't match. He could develop targeted weapons, but his understanding of the Xenos was based on intelligence gathered by his legion. Even after successive battles with Randan at Zanjiao Ursi and Shayna, he did not believe his understanding of Randan was sufficient. Besides the two major races, the Brain Eater and the Bone Eater, Randan's true ruling race, the mysterious Sloth, had yet to appear. Ning Lu knew that Randan was also known as Sloth's killing mind. Even he had limited knowledge of Sloth, knowing only that they were worm men. Qian, the 5th Company commander of the 4th Battle Group, will accompany your legion to facilitate our communication. Good. Perturabo nodded in agreement, then left with his trident. Ning Lu gazed at the vice sector. Perturabo had assigned the Campinas system, where the artificial war satellite appeared, to himself. He shifted his gaze to the Gilda's star system, a meritorious deed he had prepared for Anicharis Scoria. Ning Lu remembered that during the grand birthday celebration, Shayna, who had defected to Horus Lupercal, launched an active attack on Imperial worlds, and the only world she managed to seize was the Gilda's main world. This indicated that among the neighboring areas within several hundred light years, the Gilda's main world held the highest value for Shayna. By occupying Gildas, Anicharis would prove his capabilities, gain immense prestige, and control this resource-rich world. Tell Wilshire to dispatch walking mechs to assist Anicharis in capturing Gildas. After the High Lords of Gardinal surrendered, the remaining 152 three-legged walking mechs also surrendered. Shayna's two main Titan legions, Vulture and Gideano, were engaged in expeditionary fleet operations. Most of the remaining Titans were destroyed by the Bone Eater during the invasion, and the rest were barely enough for defense, with no surplus capacity to support their tech guard. Compared to requisitioning allied Titan legions, Ning Lu preferred to deploy Gardinal's three-legged mechs. The older model three-legged mechs, after limited modifications, should be tested on the battlefield to gather more data for future new models. Gardinal, under Ning Lu's rule, would no longer produce old model walking mechs that resembled a morgue. As you command. The 2nd and 4th battle groups of the Order Shadows received the Gene Seed Primarch's order and were deployed to the Vice Sector in just 5 weeks via the Carium Gate. 2 weeks later, the Mechanicus and Iron Warriors fleet, which had departed from Shayna II, finally reached their target. Gilda's star system. When Anicharis Scoria led his macro branch to the main world of Gildas, the 2nd Battle Group's fleet had already defeated the Xenos invasion fleet. Anicharis immediately launched a landing operation. Stepping off the landing craft, he stood on a massive mechanical platform. The upper part of the mechanical platform was a complex operating system, composed of a main cogitator, 3 operating consoles on the left, and 3 video screens on the right. 2 tech priests and 4 apprentices stood on either side, serving the object of their allegiance. The lower part of the platform, besides the base, also had cables like pythons. Each interface was connected to a weapon system. Rotary Gatlings, Maxim bolt guns. 2 servo skulls were also connected to either side of the base, emitting green light around them. Anicharis, not yet a sage, not only led the macro branch commanders, who should have been commanded by a great sage, but also possessed his own sage throne. Standing in the center of the sage throne, Anicharis's bionic eyes flickered with orange light as he looked at the cargo unloaded from the landing craft, the 3-legged walking mechs. The servo skulls, like attacking pythons, suddenly sprang from the throne, their heads raised, staring intently at the massive black-painted machines. The walking mechs were very similar in height to Warhound Titans but were wider. Each walking mech had 5 weapon systems irregularly deployed on it. The results of the omnidirectional scan were compiled into Anicharis's data engine 12 seconds later. The evaluation was completed in 3 seconds, and his primary focus was on the weapon systems. Open black lens bracket. Each mech has 3 or 4 energy weapons, significantly different in specifications from those used by the Imperium. The remaining weapon systems were added later. The original design should have had 4 weapon systems, the remaining 3 must have been damaged in some battle. Preliminary assessment. Firepower is stronger than a Warhound-class Titan, but the modified systems may experience coordination issues in combat. Close black lens bracket. Based on the discovered flaws, Anicharis then analyzed the pilots. Open black lens bracket. Their biological characteristics are strange. Were they designed solely to perform driving tasks? Like a morgue, the walking mech pilots' limbs were amputated to save internal space. They lived efficiently but incompletely through life support systems. Only the body parts necessary for driving and attacking tasks were retained. Death, for them, should be a release. Close black lens bracket. The 2 servo skulls retracted, and Anicharis stored the data of the 3-legged walking mechs in his database. Despite their design flaws, their weapon systems, especially the energy weapons, still had unique aspects. The specifications of the energy reactors were below Imperial standards, indicating that their energy supply systems were more efficient to handle the consumption of 4 energy weapons. Anicharis updated the 12 battle plans he had prepared. Energy was the most effective way to break through Xeno's personal energy shields. Open black lens bracket. With the 52 walking mechs dispatched to me by Lord Ning Lu, even if I encounter a bone eater, I can quickly destroy it. Lord Ning Lu has invested a massive amount of resources in me, the value of which already exceeds 29 large foundries. I will definitely not disappoint him. Close black lens bracket. Chapter 503. Anicharis Scoria. As long as Ning Lu continues to support me, I can become stronger. On the surface of Gilder's Prime, 2 servo skulls from the Sage's throne tracked 10 golden mechanical constructs rising into the air. Anicharis Scoria had considerable contact with the tech sergeants of the Order Shadows, and he knew these eagle-shaped metal constructs were golden Garudas, an advanced detection system. The tech priest in charge of the operations console spoke. Communication base stations deployed, military-grade communication system online, covering the southern hemisphere. Augur matrix scan results shared, tactical data updated. Anicharis immediately accessed the communication system and instructed the tech priest on the other side. Consolidate scan unlocks, pinpoint bone eater locations. Coordinates 185, bone eater life signs. 4 dangerous rune markers appeared in the tactical network, standing out clearly among the dense alien markers. Anicharis's data engine and logic engine rapidly operated, adjusting and re-simulating the battle plan. Suddenly, he noticed 2 more bone eater markers in the tactical network. He immediately traced the source and found it came from friendly shared data. Anicharis highlighted these 2 markers, Auspex power to full, rescan. The tech priest at the console immediately assigned the task to 2 apprentices. The entire macro branch's Auspex system powered up to full capacity, scanning the 2 areas. Magnetic anomaly at coordinates 162 and 205. Initial analysis indicates rich reserves of magnetic ore in the area, causing interference with scan signals. Anicharis marked coordinate 162 as a target point. He wanted to know if the Golden Garuda's detection results were accurate. He led a fully assembled tech guard company and 29 walking mechs towards coordinate 162. The Sage's throne's mechanical feet trod steadily on the highway built by the colonists. The mechanical platform, as wide as the walking mechs beside it, moved much more flexibly. The 3 legs of the walking mechs stepped onto the roadsides of the highway, crushing the discarded ores of the miners into slag. Inside the corpse-like cockpits, the gene casts numbly performed their duties amidst the jolting. Their long imprisoned bodies were pale, but their eyes glowed with a fervent light. Gardinal, which had ended the High Lord era, had ushered in changes unseen in 5 millennia, and the enslaved castes had witnessed their liberation. Ning Lu brought change to Gardinal, and they would defend the hard-won fruits of that change. No one in the future would suffer the same fate as them. At 3.6 kilometers from the coordinates, Anacharis's auspex filtered out interference and discovered the Bone Eater in the mountain hollow, resembling an ancient giant tree. The Order Shadow's Golden Garuda has stronger scanning and detection capabilities than any auspex I can find or manufacture. Anacharis surveyed the surroundings and found that the highway they had taken led directly into the valley. Before entering the mountainous area, there were two slopes on either side, 270 meters and 190 meters high respectively, with sparse Randan aliens guarding them. He immediately dispatched the tech guard to attack the 270-meter slope, while the slower walking mechs, under the command of the Order Shadows, attacked the shorter slope. Then, they would strike the Bone Eater from both sides, from a position of advantage. The Sage's Throne was the first to step and turn, its two servo skulls springing up, green light shooting out to envelop the entire slope. The tech priest and two apprentices on the left rapidly typed on the keyboard with both arms. Black cables swayed, and the Gatling gun was the first to roar. The ammunition belt rattled, and a dense hail of bullets instantly mowed down a dozen quadrupedal spiral creatures, splattering gelatinous blood everywhere. The Overlord, two curved arthropod limbs, had just raised the weapon in its hand. Two bright conversion beams crackled and blasted over. The precise energy output frequency shattered the personal energy shield. The Maxim bolt gun roared, immediately suppressing the Overlord firepower. The Sage's Throne's weapon platforms activated one by one, unleashing firepower more potent than an entire company, destroying alien defense lines like a raging storm. Anacharis simultaneously monitored the progress of the Order Shadow's tech sergeants on the other side. The three-legged walking mechs formed a line, extremely bright beams piercing through rocks, and scorching plasma beams slicing the aliens into fragments. Energy overheating turned the cold metal morgue into a furnace. The tech sergeants recorded sensor data for future improvements. The sweat-soaked gunner pulled the operating lever, and the walking mech's energy weapon rose. Dazzling beams blasted onto personal energy shields. Anacharis's optical bionic eye flickered, capturing the walking mech's combat data. The Order Shadows standardized the three-legged walking mech's operating procedures: fire suppression, simultaneous identification of overlords, energy weapons to break personal energy shields, and finally kinetic weapons like artillery to achieve kills. Compared to my Sage's Throne, the deployment is less flexible, and there is a waste of energy weapons. As Anacharis assessed, 29 walking mechs ascended the slope. Fleeing aliens were trampled underfoot, crushed into a pool of blood. They all aimed their weapons at the Bone Eater. Countless beams pierced through the dust drifting from the mining area, blasting towards the Bone Eater. The Bone Eater simultaneously turned in the flattened mining base and raised its arm. Scorching light tore through the eternal dark night sky of the mining area, and Anacharis read rapidly soaring energy readings. His auspex's visual signal flickered for several seconds before returning to normal. Anacharis discovered that not a single three-legged walking mech had been destroyed. His electronic bionic eye rotated, finding residual energy on the slope and in the shattered rocks. The Bone Eater's weapon attack was deflected. It's the squat's shield-weaving technology. Energy readings climbed, and Anacharis allocated energy, boosting his bionic eye to maximum power. After witnessing the terrifying power released by Ning Lu, he realized the inadequacy of his electronic bionic eye. With resource support, he replaced it with a quad electronic optical system. This time, he did not lose visual signals, capturing the entire process of the walking mechs and the Bone Eater's attack. Bone Eater, energy shield overloaded. Two walking mechs, shield weaving systems penetrated. Anacharis's military-grade communication system suddenly flashed an alarm rune. He felt his entire system lag for a moment, losing visual signals, losing control of metal tentacles. Anacharis immediately traced the error report. System under attack. Attack Type 1, Neurotoxin. Attack Type 2, Psychic Power. One of Anacharis's electronic bionic eyes continued to monitor the battle on the Bone Eater's side, while the other looked at the threat rune. A white figure with a red line piercing through its spherical head, he immediately recognized it as a Brain Eater. As Anacharis raised the 8 tentacles on his back, the top of the Bone Eater's head shook. A dazzling beam blasted out, and one walking mech with a shattered shield was annihilated in the warm light. The mech and its pilot were erased, leaving no trace. The energy beams of 28 mechs, green plasma beams, and laser weapons engulfed the Bone Eater's green body. As the massive green body fell, Anacharis also opened fire. Photon-piercing cannon, phase plasma weapons, bright beams, blossoming light, exceptionally conspicuous even in the destructive energy storm. The Brain Eater felt a fatal threat. Its curved arm immediately rose, raising a psychic shield in front of it. A series of piercing explosions were muffled by the colossal sound of the Bone Eater collapsing the mine tunnel as it fell. The aliens surrounding the Brain Eater were shocked that the Bone Eater was destroyed so quickly, not even realizing that the Brain Eater was under attack. After collecting the necessary data, Anacharis immediately increased the output power of his weapon system. Bang, bang, bang. A series of explosions brought the shocked aliens back to their senses. They had just raised their weapons, aiming at the hollow, when they heard a loud bang. After confirming that the personal energy shield was shattered, the gravity cannon immediately roared. The Brain Eater's body floated uncontrollably, its head roaring. Anacharis raised his staff of electro-orbs, and an arm-thick electric current struck the Brain Eater's brain directly. The destructive current pierced through the Brain Eater's brain, and physiological fluids gushed from the red line. Anacharis, having killed the Brain Eater, felt a surge of joy in his remaining brain tissue. I've grown stronger. The old me could never have defeated a Brain Eater alone. This is all a gift from Ning Lu. He issued orders over the military-grade communication system. Kill the aliens, bring back the Brain Eater. Anacharis did not use a melt-a-gun, precisely because he did not want to damage the Brain Eater's body. He knew from the tech sergeants that Ning Lu loved all sorts of strange creatures and items. The Brain Eater was one of them. As long as Ning Lu continues to support me, I can become even stronger. Anacharis's mind conjured images of himself with 12 mechanical tentacles on his back, then 18. Chapter 504, 8 Great Forge Worlds, 7 have formed alliances with me. Year 863. Typing Star Territory, Vice Sector, Worthy Shadow, Primarch's Office. Lord Ning Lu, as per your command, I have taken control of the Gildas star system. After a comprehensive scan, it was confirmed that the mineral deposits on Gildas Prime are even richer than the combined total of Shayna 2 and Shayna V. After reporting to the Savon Council, I received a reward and was promoted to Savon. Ning Lu nodded slightly upon hearing this. It was within his expectations that with his resource support, Anacharis' scoria had rapidly grown. I remember the original Anacharis became a Savon 30 years before the grand birthday celebration. Now, with my help, he has been promoted to Savon more than 100 years ahead of schedule. Then, the future tyrant of Shayna, the Jiao Lao's combat power ceiling, will definitely become even stronger. Ning Lu said with satisfaction, well done. Not only that, my lord, I directly obtained the title of Chief Forgemaster. Anacharis explained, unsure if Lord Ning Lu was familiar with the organization's structure. A Chief Forgemaster is a high-ranking Savon title, managing numerous fabricators. I even have the authority to organize fabricators into an army and deploy them on the battlefield. That's excellent news, congratulations, Anacharis. Ning Lu had some understanding of Chief Forgemasters. It was one of the highest titles within the Tech Guard system, and the power they wielded was rarely matched in any forge world. Fabricators were originally responsible for manufacturing weapons and equipment, and only a few savants had the authority to deploy them as armed forces on the battlefield. The armor they crafted for themselves far exceeded Astarte's standards, all custom-made. The weapons they used were also not mass-produced standard weapons. Master-crafted power axes were basic equipment, and plasma guns and melta-guns were held by every person, along with their respective auxiliary combat robots. You are the one who granted me all of this. I, Anacharis Scoria, will follow in your footsteps for all eternity. The eyes of the Corruption Baron were suddenly filled with lines of rules. Anacharis's entire mechanical system, electronic bionic eyes, armor, weapons, and all other items, transformed into lines of rules. His body began to boil, and something inside him was rapidly disintegrating, shattering, and dissipating. His spirituality became active, and the potion was stirred, accelerating its digestion. Anacharis has been corroded by me. Only one last step remains to fully digest the corruption baron. Indeed, the progress is as I expected. As long as I corrode Balsa Kuturi or other similar individuals, I will complete the digestion. I accept your fealty. I will bestow power upon you. Wait in the reception area for 5 minutes. Anacharis, being corroded, was completely loyal to him, and Ning Lu would provide him with more resources. A moment later, Anacharis drank the golden potion. His brain, like a grand explosion, rapidly flashed through every data crystal he had ever studied, every data slate he had ever viewed, all the information contained within them. A string of discarded code flashed through Anacharis's data engine, and he felt as if his data engine was about to crash. At the same time, he also felt his logic engine operating at full speed, and he gained some completely new understandings of knowledge. Anacharis accessed his database to store the new information. He captured some understandings, some information automatically derived and deduced by the logic engine, which were precisely the answers to his recent dilemma: how to further increase the number of mechanical tentacles and make them cooperate in combat. A moment later, under Ning Lu's guidance, Anacharis reigned in the overflowing potion power, becoming an omniscient ones. My lord, thank you for your bestowal. I will surely use the power you have granted me to seize Shayna. I will dedicate Shayna to you. Ning Lu nodded slightly. I believe you can do it. Do not be too hasty. I will tell you when the right time comes. Now go find the chief forgemaster and ask him for the sacred casket armor for research. It is the culmination of 3,600 years of mechanical modification. It integrates with the entire body and can simultaneously use dozens of weapon systems. I believe you will gain inspiration from it. Anacharis's quad-optical bionic eyes gleamed. My lord, I will not disappoint you. After Anacharis left, Ning Lu's communication bead buzzed, and Arsena Dun's voice sounded. My lord, I have received a report that the negotiating team dispatched to Mars has reached an agreement with the various Forge worlds. I would like to report to you now. Good. Ning Lu agreed to the original body servant's request. 6 minutes later, the silver-haired Arsena walked into the Primarch's office. After respectfully saluting, he began his report. My lord, we have reached an agreement with the Forge World Ryza, authorizing them to construct the Land Raider main battle tank template. In return, Ryza has agreed to sign an alliance with us, provide supplies, and offer us their renowned plasma weapons and vehicles equipped with plasma weapons. Due to the Orc threat, they are unable to send a Titan Legion to cooperate in combat, but they are willing to provide their newly developed Stormblade Super Heavy tank. Arsena operated the control staff, projecting a holographic image of the Stormblade before Ning Lu. To my knowledge, not all Forge worlds possess the standard template for building the Shadowsword. Some of them have found ways to manufacture substitutes, Arsena said with a sigh. Ryza is different from those conservative and ossified Forge worlds. It is one of the few Forge worlds that enjoys invention and innovation, Ning Lu said in agreement. To Mars, Ryza, in some sense, means heresy, but they have no choice, they constantly face the Orc threat. Yes, it is precisely in facing the continuous Orc wog that they developed the Stormblade to deal with the Gargants, Arsena continued. It can also be used against Bone Eaters. Of course, and Titans. Ning Lu thought silently to himself. He knew that both the Shadowsword and the Stormblade played the role of Titan killers. Of course, due to their slower rate of fire, in reality, one or even several of these Titan killer weapons posed little threat to a Warlord-class Titan. At least a squadron of Titan killers would be needed to pose a real threat to a Titan. I agree to their terms, Ning Lu said. The Forge World Stygius 8 wishes to obtain authorization for the standard construction template of the Land Speeder. They are willing to sign an alliance with the Legion, provide supplies, and offer the Legion Castellan robots. They are also willing to dispatch 41 Titans from the Iron Skulls Titan Legion to cooperate with the Legion in combat. I agree to their terms. Ning Lu's eyes were deep, and he thought to himself. Previously, I had already reached agreements of varying degrees with Mars, Wangquan No. 8, Lucius, Gray, and Griffon IV. Counting Ryza and Stygius 8, with whom agreements are about to be reached, 7 of the future 8 largest Forge worlds, excluding the yet-to-be-established Agrippina, have formed alliances of varying degrees with me. Shayna's production capacity is no lower than that of the 8 great Forge worlds. It just originally would have rebelled and become a Hellforge. Chapter 505, Sloth in the Shadows. In the Primarch's palace aboard the Worthy Shadow, Arsena Dunn continued to report on negotiations. Forge World Anvilus 9 wishes to obtain authorization for the standard template of the Land Raider main battle tank, but they cannot provide terms that satisfy us. We ultimately reached a compromise with them. We will provide blueprints for the Mars Universal Land Engine in exchange for their supplies and future developments based on the engine's research. Acceptable. Ning Lu nodded slightly. He knew Anvilus 9 was also a Forge world with considerable innovation. Several variants of the Land Raider were developed by them. I hope they can bring me a surprise. Forge World Voss is very interested in the Land Crawler multi-purpose heavy engineering vehicle. My staff analysis suggests this is related to their reliance on the mineral resources of the Molten Belt. The original body servant reported the final negotiation item. The Molten Belt is a resource-rich asteroid belt and Voss's primary source of minerals. Besides being willing to provide supplies, they are a major production center for Mikado super heavy tanks. They are also willing to supply the Legion with Lightning fighters, a newly developed Imperial combat aircraft, which is a revolutionary improvement over the Swordtail Interceptor. As Arsena spoke, he used a control staff to display a new holographic image. Wojciech Belik evaluated this new type of fighter, specifically noting that, compared to the Swordtail Interceptor, the Lightning fighter possesses unparalleled power and a significantly larger fuel tank. The Chief Quartermaster's report also highlighted Voss's unique advantage among many Forge worlds in manufacturing aircraft. He believes an alliance with Voss will help us be among the first to equip the new fighter and will aid the Legion in improving and equipping jump packs. I agree. Ning Lu nodded with satisfaction. Although the Land Crawler multi-purpose heavy engineering vehicle and the Mars Universal Land Engine were slightly less valuable than the Land Raider and the Land Speeder, they still yielded a decent return. Aachen Land has brought me generous returns. It was worth the great effort I expended to corrupt him. After listening to Arsena's report, Ning Lu was about to attend to his duties when a vague sound suddenly echoed in his ears, an invisible whisper reverberating in his mind. With a thought, he entered the fourth spatial layer of the Nation of Disorder, extending his spirituality to touch a pulsating gray-green orb. It was Qian, whom he had dispatched to accompany Perturabo. Ning Lu saw Qian in his quarters, hands clasped, index fingers pointing downwards, other fingers together, naturally hanging down. My lord, I have arrived in the Campinas system with Lord Perturabo's fleet. The Iron Lord immediately launched an attack on the Randan aliens. Although they lack a mimic chamber, the Iron Warrior's fleet still operates like a machine. Every ship, like a precisely functioning gear, deployed according to the battle plan. The fleet suffered considerable losses, but each sub-fleet achieved its tactical objectives, breaking through the drone blockade. The Iron Blood was able to reach the artificial war satellite's orbit, launch an assault, and gain the upper hand in the engagement. Ning Lu was not surprised. Although the Iron Blood's 20-kilometer length was not large among Glory Queen-class battleships, the warship personally designed by Perturabo was actually one of the most powerful capital ships, capable of single-handedly annihilating an entire fleet. As he pondered, Qian continued. I was ordered by Lord Perturabo to attack Space Station 1504. Inside the station's compartments, I discovered the putrid stench of decaying corpses and rotting green patches. Ning Lu's eyes flashed. As a former gravedigger and corpse collector who had already advanced to spirit medium, Qian was a professional in this area. Through communication with the remaining spirits there, From the fragmented images I obtained, I know they came from another space station, 1499. After they were killed, their bodies were left to rot before being consumed. The spirit medium reported everything he had learned, finally stating, "Based on the information I've gathered, this highly matches the activity signs of Sloth, whom you asked us to watch out for." Keon's report was consistent with Sloth's characteristics as Maggot Men and Lord of Carrion. After listening, Ning Lu could confirm signs of Sloth activity in the Compinus system. That is Sloth. They often appear behind the Randan front line. You must pay extra attention. Ning Lu knew that Sloth's population had always been small. They usually did not appear on the battlefield, mostly enjoying the corpses offered by the Randan and disrupting enemy operations through covert means. Open black lens bracket Perturbo's biggest weakness is that once he formulates a plan, he will not change it, even if new circumstances arise. He will never admit to making mistakes. When he encounters Sloth in the shadows, the Iron Warriors will surely suffer heavy losses. I cannot intervene personally, as this would humiliate Perturbo. I can only have Kian assist from the side, allowing him to resolve the Sloth threat on his own, and then offer unreserved praise after the battle. Only then can I win Perturbo's heart. Close black lens bracket. Thinking this, Ning Lu sent Kian a series of common images of Sloth. Sloth, as worm men, could appear in various forms. They could even flatten their bodies or stretch to 3 times their height. Once you discover Sloth, use your abilities to assist Perturbo, but he must resolve it personally. In a compartment of the Iron Blood, black mist surged before Kian, and the Black Emperor's majestic voice echoed in his ears. After listening, he said devoutly, "Your will be done." Ning Lu then cut off contact with the orb and leaned back on his throne. Sloth are skilled at concealment, making their tracks difficult to find. They also possess powerful regenerative abilities and cannot be stunned, making it even harder to obtain an intact corpse. To get the potion materials, I can only rely on the judge's imprisonment. Besides my power fist, Howard Fend is the most suitable candidate. The first battle group should be dispatched to the place most likely to have Sloth. Ning Lu then surveyed his subordinates. He thought that the biologist might also have a solution, but first, he would need to obtain a Sloth corpse to deeply understand the characteristics of the worms that form its body. As he pondered, he suddenly felt another orb pulsating. He extended his spirituality, simultaneously touching blue and red-black orbs. He saw Alkar Hasfar and Narit Kiran kneeling together at an altar. With a thought, he pulled the two into the nation of disorder. The two, pulled into the boundless, mysterious realm of black mist for the first time, looked around in surprise. Is this my lord's realm? Their gaze swept over the throne in the depths of the black mist before they snapped back to attention. The 19th Legion commander and company captain immediately knelt, shouting in unison, "My lord." Ning Lu nodded slightly and asked, "What is it?" The Shadow Lord replied, "My lord, after leaving Shayna and reporting to Lord Horus, he gave us a mission." The Navigator family Frank established their territory on the beautiful ocean world of Swek. Recently, the area has been attacked by Xenos. The Xenos, piloting elegant chainships, appeared in the Swek star system, attacking the Navigator family's star station, resulting in 15 navigators missing. Narit added, "Their ships are very strange, seemingly composed of a series of interconnected parts that can disarticulate during combat, separating into multiple different sections. Typing star territory, disarticulating chainships, attacking navigators." Ning Lu recalled briefly and immediately identified the Xenos as the space ants, Chu-Or. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. And please support the author by link in description. The fifth, corrosion, target recommended by far. Those are the Chu-Ale people. Although they possess advanced spacecraft, they lack warp travel capabilities, which is precisely why they launched attacks on navigators. They can control people's minds with mind control maggots. Their purpose in capturing human navigators is to use them for warp travel and establish their own empire. The Gene Seed Primarch integrated all the information he knew about the Chuale people and sent it to the two of them telepathically. I am very interested in their queen. Capture her. The ritual will be held tomorrow. I will bestow upon you arc projector guns, along with their mind control maggots, and their planetary marker stones and deep space boulders for navigation. Sacrifice them to me. The Queen of the Chuale people is the main material for the subsequent sequence 6 feet hypnotist, of psychologist, and the mind control maggots are auxiliary materials. The planetary marker stones of the Chuale people are the main material for the subsequent sequence 6 feet scribe, of astrologer, and the deep space boulders are auxiliary materials. Alcarhaz and Nerit exchanged glances. Although the Black Emperor's command differed from the kill mission issued by Lord Horus, the Black Emperor's will was above all else. We obey your command. My lord, Alcarhaz added, I have a warrior in my 89th company who is exceptionally talented. Ning Lu heard Alcarhaz recommend a talent and asked with interest. What is his name? His name is Alistair Rocha, and he is called Crow by his battle brothers in his company, Alcarhaz far continued. Though young, he has proven himself in a series of battles and is highly praised. Upon hearing the name Alistair Rocha, Ning Lu already knew who Alcarhaz was recommending. Alistair was a Raven Guard, but after the landing site massacre, he joined the Midnight Lords and even became a member of the Night Bat Council. The Night Bat Council was the future leadership organization of the Midnight Lords, composed of high-ranking members within the Legion. After the Saramas Crusade, Sevatar brought Alistair into the Night Bat Council to gain an advantage in the fierce power struggle within the Legion. Although a member of the Night Bat Council, Alistair was actually in an awkward position, as he had no military force of his own. However, Alistair's abilities were quite good, and the key was that since he had betrayed Corvus Corax, his will was not unshakable. This meant he could be corroded. Prepare a frigate, load the sacrificial items, and order Alistair to escort them, Ning Lu commanded. Tell Horus this is in gratitude for my rescue of you on Shayna. Alcarhaz was startled. He looked up into the depths of the mist, only seeing a blurry figure. As the Shadow Lord of the 19th Legion, he immediately understood the Black Emperor's hidden meaning. My lord, you do not want them to know that I am loyal to you. Exactly. To ensure that Huang Laohan would hand over the divine artifact Silent Glaze to the exiled Terra descendants he trusted, Ning Lu wanted Alcarhaz to remain as usual. Additionally, you and Nerit should not frequently interact in the future. Do not let anyone discover your close relationship. Corvus Corax would not immediately exile all Terra descendants upon his return. To bring them all under his command, Nerit Kirin had to remain in the Raven Guard. This would allow him to take away the remaining Terra descendants before the grand birthday celebration and also learn from Corax. Although Nerit, as a Terra descendant, was not favored by Corax, and would not even meet his Gene Seed Primarch before being used as cannon fodder at Stargate 42, the Ashen Clause was also a chapter reformed according to the Raven Guard's new combat tactics. We understand. The black mist engulfed the two, and Ning Lu sent them out of the Nation of Disorder. Typing Star Territory, Swek Star System. The 19th Legion's flagship was renamed the Leviathan by the Shadow Lord. Alcarhaz sat on his throne. Have the arc projector guns been distributed? Shadow Lord, they have been distributed. Each squad has one, the captain of the Honor Guard immediately replied to the chapter master. Very good. Alcarhaz's gloomy face showed a hint of a smile. Remember the appearance of the alien queen and capture them. I will offer them to Lord Ning Lu. He extended a helping hand to us on Shayna too. My lord, Nerit's company has, according to your command, locked onto a chain ship and will launch a boarding action simultaneously when it disperses. Very good, Alcarhaz said calmly. Surround the other warships. Do not let any alien warships escape. Before they parted yesterday, he and Nerit agreed that the ocean world would be left to him, the sailor, and the mysteries of the alien ships would be left to the secret supplicant to explore. While Alcar has commanded his ships to surround the Chuael people's ships, Nerit had already stepped off the deck of the Gauntlet assault boat. The secret supplicant heard the buzzing of wings. He raised his bolt gun and fired a bolter round directly into one of the dozen labyrinthine entrances before him. With a loud bang, the alien collided with the bolter round, and its paper shattered. The bolter rounds Nerit subsequently fired penetrated the mist, striking the alien's slime-covered body and blowing it into a mist of blood. His guard members all looked towards the entrance of the passage. The aliens, shrouded in mist, had 6 eyeballs, their compound eyes arranged vertically in pairs. The alien had a bird-like beak and was covered in something that felt like hard, brittle paper. Its outer surface and flexible, sticky inner surface formed a garment like a sleeveless jacket. Diamond-tipped rounds shredded the alien's paper-like clothing, detonating inside its body. Accompanied by piercing buzzing sounds, one alien after another flew out. Their bodies trembled, and the surrounding airflow seemed to be sucked into their bodies as if by an extractor fan. With bursts of explosive sounds, invisible gas bullets were fired from their tails. In a series of crisp explosions, a guard member's power armor was subjected to continuous hammering, and the armor visibly collapsed at an alarming rate. Nerit saw the misty compounds in the air, and at the same time, the secret supplicant's spiritual intuition warned him that something was flowing in the air. He knew it was the misty chemical mixture discharged by the Chuael people's complex chemical glands. The aliens, lacking auditory organs, communicated using colored hormones and fluid pheromones. Nerit issued a command over the company's communication channel: attack their upper bodies, their saccules are there. The aliens communicate with secreted hormones. The Astartes immediately aimed their bolt guns at the aliens' upper bodies. Amidst the roar of bolter fire, the saccules of the Chuael people burst one by one. Slime splattered everywhere, and the labyrinth entrance was filled with disgusting gray-black liquid. The aliens' attacks immediately became chaotic, with hammering sounds striking different power armors, unable to cause any damage. After a dense hail of bullets slaughtered the frantically surging aliens, the captain of the guard stepped forward, stopping before he stepped into the disgusting slime. Shrugging, he joked, "These aliens are disgusting, but we can only go through this passage." Red and black light glowed in the secret supplicant's eyes. After a few seconds, he spoke. "No, that's a trap. We need to go through this passage." He pointed to the third passage to the left of the passage where the Chuael people had just surged out. Chapter 507, Captain, you cannot insult the noble navigator. Nerit Kiran's captain of the guard looked at the passage in confusion, finding nothing special about the passage his captain pointed to. With his doubts, he followed Nerit into the passage. The secret supplicant moved forward, sensing the subtle changes around him. The team advanced, winding through the curved maze for 1 standard hour, far exceeding the results of the scan of this section of the ship. "Are we going the wrong way?" "No." Nerit heard the captain of the guard's question and denied it without hesitation. He could instinctively feel that the male adult warriors of the Chuael people wanted to lure them into a path to launch an ambush. The Black Emperor told him that the Xenos possessed considerable intelligence. The path he chose would break the Xenos' ambush plot. 3 o'clock direction, attack. Flying from around the corner were Chuael male adult warriors in a diffusing mist. They crashed into the dense barrage fired by the Astartes. The appearance of the Xenos invigorated the warriors of the 19th Legion, allowing them to cast aside their worries about being trapped in the maze during the battle. Adamantite-tipped bullets shredded the Xenos' paper shell, outer layer, and bolt guns detonated in their visceral sacs. What was fired at the Astartes was no longer air bullets, but a dense volley of solid bullets. The secret supplicant, unlike other Astartes who could only see silhouettes, saw more clearly that firearms were installed on the biochemical mechanical interfaces at the bottom of the Xenos' abdominal cavities. Bullets hammered against the power armor, denting the armor all over. The Astartes attacked in a zigzag pattern, using the passages on both sides as cover. The Chuael adult warriors did not turn their bodies, the mere tremor and rotation of their thoraxes allowed them to cover 180 degrees, attacking like a rotating machine gun. With a bang, a guard member fell. Even with their visceral sacs shattered, individuals who had undergone biochemical modifications posed a greater threat than the ordinary individuals encountered before. Upon realizing this, Nerit immediately activated his lightning claw, charging directly into the Chuael people, his energy field-wrapped claws tearing apart an adult male warrior. He weaved through the Chuael people, one male warrior after another falling. His movements were swift, and not even the foul-smelling mucus stained his armor. The Chuael people noticed the swift figure charging among them. The male warriors, split into two sides, abandoned the guard members and fired a dense barrage at Nerit. The secret supplicant allowed his spiritual intuition to guide him. He would suddenly dodge, then sprint, agilely moving through the hail of bullets. Nerit tore through the ranks of the Chuael people. He felt the guard members following behind him, but he did not stop, for he had already seen a cabin at the end of the passage ahead. Elite Chuael male warriors are guarding something. He swung his lightning claw, tearing apart the Xenos blocking his path, and arrived before a door. The roar of bolt guns sounded behind him. The following guard members meant he did not need to worry about his rear. Nerit did not, as he had in the past, directly use door-breaching tactics or place melt-of bombs to blast open the entrance. Now, he possessed the abilities bestowed by the Black Emperor. The secret supplicant gazed at the Xenos runic script on the panel. The runic script was very different from Gothic letters, but it was clear they were hieroglyphs. Some had circles on top, vertical lines below, and diagonal lines on both sides, representing humans. The superhuman intellect of an Astartes allowed Nerit to take in all the runic script in an instant. The secret supplicant's eyes were deep as he analyzed and understood the Chuael people's runic script. As the hiss of bolt guns behind him subsided, he reholstered his bolt pistol and rapidly typed on the gelatinous keyboard. Accompanied by the cold mist, similar to the mist spewed from visceral sacs, the door slowly opened. "It's a navigator of the Frank family." The captain of the guard walked to his captain's side. He no longer doubted Lord Nerit, they were indeed on the correct path. The pale-skinned navigator looked at everyone and said weakly, help me. What's wrong?" the captain of the guard asked. The navigator said stiffly, "I'm fine." "Fine. But you just asked for help," the captain of the guard asked in confusion. Nerit suddenly walked towards the navigator. The secret supplicant pushed him down and then tore off his clothes. The captain of the guard was about to stop his captain. Insulting a noble navigator, sanctioned by the Imperium, would cause them no small amount of trouble, and Lord Horus would rebuke their disrespectful behavior. The gauntlet of his hand, about to touch his captain's arm, stopped in midair. He saw a worm attached to the base of the navigator's spine, close to the nervous system. It was a fat worm. Its two tentacles were deeply embedded in the navigator's pale flesh. Its mouthparts were clamped tightly onto the spine, and the pale skin around it was bruised purple. The Xenos used it to control the navigator. The captain of the guard suddenly understood. That's right, Nerit recalled the information the Black Emperor had given him. It's called a mind control maggot. A bottle. An apothecary immediately took a metal canister from his waist. Following his captain's order, he had prepared 15 storage canisters in advance. He pressed a runic symbol, and with the diffusion of cold mist, a section of the metal canister popped out. Nerit raised his left hand and grabbed the fat maggot. Deprived of its host, the mind control maggot let out a sharp shriek of anger at Nerit. Nerit placed the mind control maggot into the bio chamber. The apothecary pressed the runic symbol again before the fat maggot could escape. With a bang, the mind control maggot slammed against the metal inner wall. "Thank you, the Flack family navigator, having narrowly escaped death," said weakly. He was finally free from the nightmare. He no longer wanted to constantly resist the intruder with his will, to prevent his consciousness from sinking into a nightmare. "Take him back to the ship," Nerit ordered, then looked at a deep space boulder taller than himself and 3 men wide. Upon the deep space boulder, Chuael people's runic script was arranged in a honeycomb pattern. Deep space boulder. Nerit's eyes lit up. Both the mind control maggot and the deep space boulder were items designated by the Black Emperor. Carry it back. 2 guard members immediately stepped forward and lifted the deep space boulder. Nerit then led his guard, re-entering the maze. As he walked through a passage, he suddenly stopped, pointed at the metal wall, and gave an order. Melta bombs. A moment later, an explosion caused the guard members, who had gone some distance, to turn back. They saw countless Xenos thrashing and struggling in a sea of fire. They raised their bolt guns and fired at the Chuael people struggling to escape the flames. The captain of the guard was not surprised, but still looked at his captain with astonishment. He felt his captain was becoming stronger and wiser. Nerit Kirin led his company to board one scattered Chuael people chained ship after another, attempting to escape, rescuing captured navigators, and bringing back spoils of war. He did not stop until all the chained ships in the void were captured. After receiving orders from the Shadow Lord to rest, the secret supplicant began to hold successive prayer sacrifices in his captain's quarters, offering the mind control maggot and the deep space boulder to the Black Emperor. As he gained control of the power bestowed by the Black Emperor during the sacrifice, Alcar has far issued orders to launch an orbital drop on the main planet of Svek. Chapter 508, The Chuael Queen's Air Cannon Projectile. The main planet of Svek was divided by the sea into 5 larger landmasses and thousands of islands. Alcar has far landed on the largest continent. As soon as he leapt out of the drop pod, he immediately saw a vast swarm of Chuael people approaching. Becoming a sailor awakened the latent power of Alcarha's superhuman body. He held a chainsword in one hand and raised an archaeological handgun in the other, firing into the air. The scorching destructive ray collected from the planetary radiation layer pierced through the paper shell outer layer, incinerating the internal cavities along with it. The Legion commander's honor guard fired a dense barrage into the sky, and alien corpses rained down, their viscous fluids splattering on the emerald green forests. Alcar has looked up at the obscured sky. He suddenly remembered that the Black Emperor had once told him that a Chuael queen could lay thousands of eggs daily, and each Chuael person could live for about 10 Terra years. The Chuael people have taken root in this world, more subordinates must be assembled. The Shadow Lord immediately marked his coordinates in the 19th Legion's tactical network and issued an assembly order. Subsequently, he switched communication channels and called the fleet. Augur Matrix Class Master, Maximum Power Scan. I want the 20 strongest life signal coordinates. As green runes rapidly approached in the tactical network, Alcar has simultaneously saw 5 squads appear from different directions. Blast assault rifles spewed rays into the air, incinerating swaths of adult Chuael warriors. In Alcarha's Visor's tactical network, the red dots in the surrounding area rapidly disappeared, replaced by an increasing number of green ones. The built-in communicator in his helmet suddenly beeped. After he answered, the voice of the Augur Matrix Class Master sounded. Shadow Lord, scan complete. The nearest coordinate is 14.83 kilometers from you. There are at least 100,000 aliens there. After Alcar has hung up the communication, he immediately marked the target location in the tactical network and issued an attack order. Wearing his Iron Knight Terminator armor, he strode forward. After becoming a sailor, he felt slightly more at ease when armored. Although not as agile as when he wore the Mark I power armor he had worn since the Unification Wars, his steps had become much lighter. Alcar has slowed his pace but still gradually pulled away from the squad in Iron Rider class Terminator armor. 2 guard squads in Mark III power armor kept pace with him on either side. Suddenly, Alcar has lunged forward, the motor of his great axe screaming in his hand. Projectiles slammed into the Terminator armor. The sailor raised his hand and fired a beam, blowing apart the abdominal cavity connecting the armored vehicle. The armored vehicle, disconnected from its biomechanical interface, crashed forward due to inertia. The sailor fired a beam at another armored vehicle while swinging the great axe in his hand. The chainsword screamed as it tore the alien armored vehicle into pieces. Metallic fragments coated in organic matter clattered against the Terminator armor. Alcarhes continued without stopping, crashing into the Chuael armored cluster. The chainsword spun rapidly in the sailor's hand, moving up and down. Amidst the piercing screams, chitinous limbs were shredded, viscous fluid splattered, and metallic debris of varying sizes clanged against the armor. After Alcarhes destroyed the Chuael people's armored forces, he found himself standing at the entrance of a large basin. He glanced at the tactical network on his helmet and saw that the target point was directly ahead, a dense red ocean filling the screen. Alcarhes looked into the basin. Groups of Chuael people roamed near the entrance. Unlike the adult male warriors encountered before, they had no wings, and one or two pairs of three-jointed legs supported their bodies. The Shadow Lord raised the great axe in his hand and pointed towards the basin. "Purge the Xenos." The Astartes of the Legion, following his steps, roared in unison. A dense barrage of projectiles shot towards the Chuael juveniles, reducing them to shattered remains. Alcarhes crashed into the aliens. Wherever he went, Chuael juveniles were crushed into a puddle of pus. Stepping into the basin, he immediately saw dense clusters of eggs hanging on the surrounding mountainsides. Alcarhes' gaze was then drawn to a colossal, mountain-like figure. She was 10 times the size of an adult male Chuael warrior, and each of her arms was 3 times thicker than a warrior's. Her massive body had no wings. She lay on the ground, her 3 pairs of compound eyes glaring fiercely at him. "Hunting party, prepare. Everyone else, destroy all Chuael people and burn all the eggs." The Astartes immediately carried out the Legion commander's order, firing bolter rounds at the Chuael juveniles. Destroyers took melta weapons and blast assault rifles from their comrades, flew into the air, and cleared the dense eggs on the cliffs. The Chuael queen's 3 pairs of compound eyes watched her children die in droves and let out an angry roar. A storm suddenly erupted in the valley, eggs on the cliffs rustled down, and Chuael juveniles were swept up by the airflow, flying towards the center. At the center was where the Chuael queen stood. The honeycomb-like structures within her abdominal sac underwent complex, rapid movements, and her muscle filters and 13 valves vibrated at high frequency. Just as she was about to attack, she saw a figure rushing towards her at high speed. Wherever he went, scattered eggs were trampled into muddy puddles like balloons, and Chuael juveniles were torn to shreds by the chainsword. Alcarhes raised his hand and fired a beam at the Chuael queen, and at the same time, the Chuael queen also launched her attack. A deafening roar sounded. Amidst the sharp whooshing, the air cannon projectile crushed thousands of eggs scattered by the wind and dozens of Chuael juveniles into dust as it passed. The air cannon projectile slammed into the beam, instantly engulfing it. Alcarhes discovered that the scorching destructive ray collected from the planetary radiation layer was instantly swallowed. The sailor had a thought, and the illusory scales, hidden beneath his skin, surged. Alcarhes issued an order the moment he was thrown back. "Hunting party, now!" Dozens of electric arcs shot out simultaneously, screaming as they slammed into the Chuael queen's body. She trembled all over, and her pulsating abdominal cavity stopped. Alcarhes crashed heavily against the cliff, countless rocks rolling down and burying him beneath them. The guard members immediately rushed towards their legion commander, and the hunting party angrily fired a second round of electric arcs at the target. The Shadow Lord's honor guard members, frantically digging through the rubble, suddenly felt the ground tremble beneath their feet. Alcarhes emerged from the pile of rubble, covered in dust, the chest plate of his Terminator armor dented. "I'm fine," the sailor said in his usual tone. He had timely used illusory scales at the last moment of the attack, and the shockwave, after penetrating his armor, caused him no harm. Alcarhes heard a mountain-like crashing sound, and the ground shook violently in response. He turned his head and saw the Chuael queen lying powerlessly on the ground, her body heaving, clearly unconscious. Alcarhes also saw dozens of massive stone pillars exposed behind her, covered with Chuael runes. The first hunt was a bit messy, but fortunately, my lord's mission was completed. Both the Chuael queen and the planetary marker stones were secured. He pressed the runic symbol, and the chainsword gradually stopped vibrating. His gaze traveled across the basin towards the sea. After completing the hunt, I will set sail and freely be a sailor. Chapter 509 Lord Perturabo, your son has been parasitized. The void of the Campinas system was filled with debris engulfed in flames. Among them, the most obvious was the burning new sun, the Randan artificial war satellite. To achieve this glorious victory, the Iron Lord's flagship, Iron Blood, paid a huge price. The Rongguang Nuong class battleship's gray iron hull was covered in scars left by Randan drone swarms. The Iron Warriors, at great cost, won the void battle and successfully landed on the surface. At the Gene Seed Primarch's command center, Kian, clad in armor, stood before a holographic table, quietly listening to Perturabo issue orders. Perturabo explained his plan to his trident, finally pointing to a mountain range. Now, the only uncertain factor in my plan is the mountain range that spans this plane's world. Due to unknown electromagnetic interference, the Augur Matrix's crew has not provided me with scan results sufficient to eliminate all unknowns. His ice-blue eyes gazed at the center of the holographic image, at the mountain range resembling a crouching dragon, his tone containing a hint of dissatisfaction. The warpsmith Phrixus, the blade of the trident, spoke to his Gene father. Father, I have already dispatched Kael'kes. He is the most skilled scout among the adjutants, and he will surely bring back intelligence that satisfies you. The continuous mountain range of the Campinas main star undulated, shrouded in perpetual mist. In the heart of the continuous mountain range, majestic fortresses rose from the ground. The sloth infiltrator Dominic, hidden in the shadows of the rocks, watched leisurely as the worms all over his body writhed. His body was wrapped in a corpse collector's cloak, absorbing the light that shone upon him. Two of his summoned servants, brain eaters, following his will, had already surrounded the warriors clad in iron-gray armor. As a sloth who had just entered the threshold of biological weapons, he could discern that neurotoxins had already diffused into the air. Before long, he would acquire experimental subjects and proceed with his own plan. The worms wriggled, pulling out a smile similar to a human's. Dominic saw a warrior in iron-gray armor kneel down. Light flashed, and a brain eater swung its crystal longsword, cutting another iron warrior in half at the waist. Hours passed, one after another. The young Dominic looked at the unyielding warrior with some impatience. His ammunition was exhausted, his power sword was destroyed in a clash with the brain eater's crystal greatsword, but he was still struggling. Dominic emerged from the shadows of the rocks and slipped among the Randan warriors. The infiltrator, wrapped in the corpse collector's cloak, glided silently among his servants, arriving 3 meters behind Kael'kes without a sound. The corpse collector's cloak twisted on its own as if alive, following the spreading worms. The worms all over Dominic's body rapidly extended, instantly spreading to Kael'kes' head, gripping his head like a large hand. Necrotic fluid was rapidly secreted from the worm man's body tissues. Molecular-level acid enveloped Kael'kes' helmet. Kael'kes swung his chainsword, laboriously parrying the crystal longsword. Just as he felt something on his head, the necrotic acid had already torn a fist-sized hole in his helmet. Countless worms spread wildly, burrowing into the helmet and gripping Kael'kes' head. Necrotic acid enveloped the Astartes' head, instantly tearing an opening in his skull. Hundreds of thousands of worms, like hands, grabbed a bloody, insect-like thing and stuffed it into Kael'kes' brain. Kael'kes' motion of swinging his chainsword stopped mid-air. His face crumpled, and his body trembled. The 2 brain eaters and other Randan also stopped their attacks. They retreated a distance, looking at their master with some fear. The worms quickly retracted, and the corpse collector's cloak also contracted, transforming back into a human shape. He walked to the side of an iron warrior's corpse. His left arm hung down, and worms surged onto his right arm. The extended right arm gripped an iron warrior's helmet. After the necrotic acid dissolved the helmet, the worms densely covered and completely enveloped the iron warrior's head. Tens of seconds later, the iron warrior's head disappeared, and a large mass of information, a mixture of memories, knowledge, and experience, simultaneously poured into Dominic's mind. After the facial worms writhed chaotically for a while, He found the necessary parts from the jumbled information, and he regained his human form. At the same time, Kez's body no longer trembled. He walked in front of Dominic and knelt on the ground. Dominic's body writhed, and the large worm hand once again gripped Kez's head. Then, Kez stood up, ripped off an Iron Warrior's helmet, and put it on his own head. The worms on Dominic's body vibrated. He raised his right arm. In front of the tentacles, an uneven metallic sphere lit up, and a vocalizer translated the worm man's rubbing sounds into words his servants could understand. One brain eater immediately left with his subordinates to convey the master's orders to other Xenos. The other brain eater, with his other subordinates, carried the Iron Warrior's corpses and followed behind Dominic. Dominic returned to his fortress with the spoils of war. The Iron Warrior's bodies were divided into 2 parts. 10 relatively complete bodies were sent to the laboratory, awaiting his dissection for biological research. The remaining bodies were sent to his dining room, to be left to rot before he would begin to enjoy the delicacy. Compared to the discomfort of devouring live memories, rotten corpses were much more delicious. 4 standard hours later, Kez walked into Perturbo's command base. After saluting the Gene Seed Primarch and the Trident, he spoke in a normal and fluent tone. I was ordered to scout the central mountain range. The Xenos have not built any fortresses in the mountains. There are several straight highways in the mountains that the foolish Xenos have not utilized. We can occupy these positions and establish fortresses, which will give us an advantage. Kian listened to the Iron Warrior's report. The spirit medium suddenly felt his inspiration stirred. He also felt a subtle, almost imperceptible sign of decay on Kez's body. Though faint, for the former corpse collector, there could be no mistake. The spirit medium immediately activated psychic vision, scrutinizing the Iron Warrior before him. Kez's soul is not quite right. It's not the gloomy and tough iron gray of an Iron Warrior, but a light red. He closed psychic vision, activated the Death Eye, which he had mastered when he became the Gravedigger and was enhanced after becoming a spirit medium, and continued to scrutinize the Iron Warrior before him. Entering the spiritual world, looking down at the Astartes from a higher level, he immediately saw the decay at the body and soul level. The spirit medium closed the Death Eye. His spirituality spread towards the Iron Warrior, touching the bloody insect-like creature. The spirit medium felt its independent consciousness, and combining the observations from psychic vision and the Death Eye, he drew a startling conclusion. The Iron Warrior had been parasitized. An Astartes, enhanced by superhuman transformation, had actually been parasitized and seemed to maintain his sanity. This seemed impossible, but the Black Emperor had informed him before that the sloth possessed this ability. What Kez said is false, that is a sloth trap. Kian had just opened his mouth to warn, but suddenly remembered the Black Emperor's instruction to assist Lord Perturbo. He temporarily changed what he was going to say. Lord Perturbo, I have important intelligence that I need to report to you privately. Perturbo's ice-blue eyes swept over Kian. Come with me. Perturbo led Kian away from the holographic table and into a private room. After activating the shielding field, he spoke. You have 1 minute. Lord Perturbo, your son, Kez, has been parasitized. As soon as Kian finished speaking, he immediately felt as if he had been struck by a heavy hammer. He met Perturbo's ice-blue eyes and saw them filled with coldness. Chapter 510 Perturbo, Ning Lu's descendant, very good. Perturbo's jaw jutted forward, the long cables plugged into his head like dirty dreadlocks, clashing against each other with a faint rustle. Your basis. Kian felt Perturbo's pressure. He knew that if he couldn't provide a satisfactory answer, he would surely incur the Primarch's punishment. He had already formulated his words, my lord, my basis comes from my father. The ice blue in Perturbo's eyes receded slightly, but he still stared intently at Kian. The Xenos we face are controlled and driven by a race called Sloth. Sloth can parasitize a special, blood-colored, insect-like creature within an Iron Warrior's body. Is that your answer? Perturbo said impatiently. Phrixus knows Kez, he wasn't parasitized. My lord, he was parasitized. The talent bestowed upon me by the Gene Father and the special psychic powers I possess allow me to see things ordinary people cannot. Qian disguised the abilities of a spirit medium as psychic power, a common explanation used by Order Shadows to outsiders. He saw Perturabo remain silent, seemingly analyzing his words. If you don't believe me, you can verify it. How to verify? Perturabo's rock-hard voice softened slightly. Although individuals parasitized by flesh and blood possess intelligence beyond ordinary people, they cannot retain the calculation and analysis abilities of your descendant. He is not a true Iron Warrior. As long as you test him, he will immediately be exposed. Qian always remembered the Black Emperor's instructions. His responsibility was to remind, not to reveal. His mission was for Lord Perturabo to discover the truth. Perturabo said nothing more. He turned off the shielding field and walked back to the holographic projection table. The waiting Trident, seeing his father's gloomy expression, couldn't help but wonder what Qian and his father had discussed. Perturabo's ice-blue eyes gazed at Kael'Kez, and he said in a deep voice, "Mark the detailed reconnaissance results on the holographic projection map." "Yes, father." Kael'Kez immediately began to act. He picked up the control staff and started marking the outline of the mountain range. Perturabo watched every movement of Kael'Kez. Normally, he wouldn't waste time waiting. This time would be enough for him to complete the logistics scheduling plan. But now, he did not leave the holographic projection table, staring motionlessly at Kael'Kez. His trident also stood by, waiting quietly. The timer in the command center ticked past 1 standard hour, and Perturabo's brow furrowed slightly. Kael'Kez's movements were a bit slower than usual. He would occasionally pause, ponder for a few seconds, and then continue. His movements are too slow. The automatic sensing system would assist him in recording. He doesn't need this much time to recall. Attack Mark .1, Perturabo pointed to the holographic projection map and asked Kael'Kez, "Your plan?" Kael'Kez was stunned for a moment, then spoke after 2 minutes of silence. "1 company, 10 Mikado heavy tanks. After capturing the target area, deploy spider sentry guns, then establish defensive fortresses." Perturabo's voice grew colder. How many fortresses to build? Fortress scale. Standard construction time. Guard strength. Firepower allocation. Reserve supplies. Kael'Kez was silent for another 3 minutes. 4 fortresses, each of equal scale. Warpsmith Phrixus frowned, looking at his adjutant. According to Kael'Kez's markings, the terrain around Mark .1 was uneven and winding. At critical nodes, fortresses of equal scale should clearly not be built. Instead, construction should be tailored to the terrain characteristics to perfectly utilize each fortress's firepower. As he was pondering, Perturabo moved. He came before Kael'Kez, raised his hand, and ripped off his helmet. The Gene Seed Primarch's ice-blue eyes immediately caught the unhealed, 1 mm wide, finger-long gash on Kael'Kez's head. He no longer had any doubts. Amidst the terrified exclamations of the Trident, he plunged his finger into Kael'Kez's head and pulled out a blood-colored worm. As the worm was pulled out, Kael'Kez's body slammed to the ground. Perturabo flung the blood-colored parasite, struggling and wriggling between his fingers, onto the holographic projection table. With a crisp thud, the parasite's corpse slapped onto it. He was parasitized. Phrixus, the blade of the Trident, thought of the heavy casualties they would suffer after being misled by Kael'Kez into an ambush. He knelt on the ground in shame. "Father, I failed to discover Kael'Kez was parasitized, almost causing us to fall into the Xenos trick. Be more careful in the future." Phrixus, who was waiting for the Gene Father's punishment, was stunned. He had expected to be stripped of his Trident honor, but he never thought his usually strict father would not mete out punishment. Perturabo's eyes were full of ice blue. "The Xenos set an ambush in the mountains, hoping to ambush us. Now, they will pay the price for it. Although what he just said was false, it also provided me with intelligence. All strategic key nodes must have Xenos strongholds, and they will also set ambushes around them." Qian listened as Perturabo analyzed rapidly. The Gene Seed Primarch, almost without thinking, deduced the Xenos' deployment based on Kael'Kaz's false statements and formulated a combat plan accordingly. 4 minutes later, his name was called. Kian, your mission is to find Sloth. Phrixus looked at Kian thoughtfully. Father entrusted Sloth, who designed everything, to Kian. Could it be? He just spoke to Father alone, and Father did not punish me for my dereliction of duty. Could it be that Kian reminded Father? I obey your command, but I need that. Kian pointed to the body of the flesh and blood parasite on the holographic projection table. After receiving permission, he picked up the blood-colored worm with his gauntleted hand. Kian then recalled the duty the Black Emperor had bestowed upon him. My lord, Sloth is difficult to kill. Please allow me to report to you after I find him. I will authorize a dedicated communication channel for you. You will be able to contact me at any time. Perturabo sent Kian a series of communication codes. Phrixus looked at Kian enviously, thinking to himself. Open black lens bracket. He has already won Father's trust. Close black lens bracket. After confirming the connection of his helmet communicator, Kian left the command center. He assembled the royal court monks within his company, who had been granted different powers by his father. Kian did not select any psychic, nor did he ask a prophetic psychic to foresee. The Black Emperor had warned him that Sloth possessed some characteristics similar to untouchables among humans. No sloth could be perceived by a mind-type psychic, and their terrifying minds would inflict varying degrees of punishment on psychics. 6 hours later, Kian led his team to the outskirts of Mark Point 5 in the mountains. Beside Kian was a seer, whose divining staff had the blood-colored parasite wrapped around its tip. He looked up into the distance. The Iron Warriors had already launched a surprise attack on the mountains. They were like precisely operating war machines. Each squad moved simultaneously, arrived at their designated locations at the same time, and launched precise firepower strikes against the Xenos. The deployed Spider sentry guns did not fire laser beams, instead, they fired energy beams personally designed by Lord Perturabo. The Spiders, along with the energy weapons mounted on the Mikado heavy tanks, fired together at the Bone Eater, which was as tall as a towering tree. Each attack from the Bone Eater wiped out a spider or a vehicle, but the Iron Warriors did not flinch. They formed an iron torrent and continued to charge and attack the Bone Eater. The overwhelming attacks drowned out the Bone Eater's firepower. With a huge roar, the titan-sized body of the Bone Eater collapsed. Move out. Amidst the violent trembling of the earth, Kian led his team through the 34 Mikado heavy tanks destroyed by the Bone Eater and entered the mountainous area. The team continued to advance. Along the way, the seer constantly corrected their direction using divining staff item finding, finally arriving at the foot of a 1,000-meter-high mountain peak. After the spirit medium gave the order to stop, he activated the Death Eye, entered the spiritual world, and surveyed the fortress from a higher dimension. The gray-white fortress was covered in countless dark green wraiths, swirling and howling. After observing for a while, the spirit medium closed his Death Eye. He had found his target. Kian immediately switched the communication channel to the one exclusive to Lord Perturabo and sent the coordinates captured by the divination box. 1 second later, Perturabo's rock-hard voice sounded on the communication channel. I understand. Kian led his team, hiding behind the rocks, waiting quietly. They didn't wait long, the helmet's timer had just passed 36 standard minutes. Amidst the roar of engines, a squadron of iron-gray stormbirds pierced through the clouds and flew rapidly. The heavy stormbird, personally crafted by Perturabo, led the iron-gray formation. The guarding Bone Eater shot beams of light into the sky, striking Perturabo's vehicle. The iron-gray stormbird was hit by a dazzling shower of sparks from the light beams. The stormbird formation, in a matter of seconds, formed an arrow-like formation and launched a series of strikes against the Bone Eater. Ignore the air. Sloth might take the opportunity to escape. Keep a close eye on him. The royal court monks immediately shifted their gaze from the sky and each used their abilities to watch the mountain. The spectator beside Kian had piercing dark eyes, searching the mountains. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed across his eyes. The spectator's eyes lit up, and he suddenly shouted into the communication channel. I found him. He immediately uploaded the captured black shadow to the tactical network. Amidst the colossal crash of the falling Bone Eater, Kian immediately shared Sloth's location with Lord Perturabo. The iron-gray stormbirds flying towards the fortress immediately changed direction and flew towards Sloth. Dominic constantly changed direction, but the stormbirds always followed him closely. Perturabo stood at the door, tactical data flashing rapidly through his superhuman brain. He used this as a basis to predict Sloth's trajectory. He simultaneously directed the pilot and raised the plasma gun he had manufactured, firing beams of light at Sloth. With a pattering sound, worms fell onto the rocks. The moment the iron-gray stormbird obscured Sloth's body, Perturabo leapt down. A massive broadsword savagely pierced Sloth's body. Amidst a piercing shriek, the worm man's body was torn in all directions. Perturabo continuously swung his sword, hacking at Dominic's limbs. No, Dominic roared unwillingly, how did he find me? After killing Sloth with a series of slashes, Perturabo thought to himself. Ning Lu's descendant, very good. He asked Kian, who was approaching, what reward do you want? My lord, it is my honor to serve you. If possible, I would like Sloth's corpse. Chapter 511. Rescuing Omega early, requesting live samples isn't too much, right? September of 863. Vice Sector, Wangquan Shadow, Primarch's office. Ning Lu listened to Kian's report and fell into silent contemplation. Open black lens bracket Sloth only cared about escaping when facing Perturabo. He didn't have a scepter that could fire destructive rays, nor did he have numerous constructs guarding him. His regeneration ability was also very weak, and he was killed by Perturabo's external attacks. He must have been the lowest grade infiltrator among the sloths. Close black lens bracket. Ning Lu remembered that during the Ran-Dan War, Alfarius learned that his twin Primarch brother, Omega, was stranded on Balsaver. He led his subordinates to that planet. Subsequently, Alfarius furiously discovered that Sloth was using their biotechnology to try and enslave Omega. In close combat, Alfarius was no match for Sloth, the Worm Man's powerful regeneration ability. His power spear was knocked away, worm tentacles wrapped around his waist, and necrotic acid corroded his armor. Ultimately, it was Librarian Rukol who sacrificed his life, launching a psychic attack that stunned Sloth for a second, allowing his Primarch to find an opportunity to insert an armor-piercing grenade into Sloth and detonate it. Rukol knew he would die the moment before launching the attack. He had used his psychic powers shortly before, and a few seconds later, he fell to his knees in pain, twitching and retching. He was a powerful Astartes librarian, with a will far beyond ordinary mortals, but he was still counterattacked the moment he touched Sloth's mind. Open black lens bracket. Even if Perturabo was stronger than Alfarius, he couldn't have so easily killed a Sloth overseer, let alone a destroyer. After all, even when Lionel Johnson and 3 other Primarchs fought at the Battle of Tarks, the situation was extremely bad. Perturabo encountered an infiltrator. Close black lens bracket. Ning Lu came to a conclusion, and suddenly, a flash of inspiration struck him. Open black lens bracket. I can go to Balsaver to rescue Omega a few years earlier, before Alfarius knows his location. Close black lens bracket. Ning Lu believed that Sloth would not be polite to Omega. Since he wanted to enslave Omega, he would definitely conduct comprehensive research on him. Open black lens bracket. Sloth's scientific technology perfectly broke the boundary between organic and inorganic matter. Their biochemical synthesis technology could achieve various functions, completely obeying the will of their master. Sloth's laboratory is of immense value. In addition to research data, there are also collected live samples such as blood and skin tissue, which can be used to create occult items and discover infiltrating alphas. Close black lens bracket. Gene Seed Primarch blood contains powerful mystical energy. Ning Lu knew that the future Nurgle Great Demon Kugath created a disease called Godblight using a drop of Gilliman's blood. Open black lens bracket. Omega was tormented by Sloth, so I let him suffer less and prevented the Alpha. From losing a librarian and a large number of elites, I only ask for some live samples in return, which I deserve. I really am a good person who works tirelessly and asks for so little, close black lens bracket. After Ning Lu noted down his future plans, he turned his gaze to the 1-meter-long crystal coffin placed before him, with clusters of worms and a tattered piece of clothing floating in the stasis field. The corruption baron used psychic vision to examine it, open black lens bracket. Unfortunately, even an ordinary infiltrator is a qualified potion ingredient, but it is damaged and can only be used as a spiritual material. The shroud of the corpse is the main material for the spirit mediums, subsequent sequence 6 inches spirit guide, but it is also damaged and can only be used as a spiritual material, close black lens bracket. But before being used as spiritual materials, they had other uses. Ning Lu looked at Malina Scala, the biologist's tawny hair swaying like venomous snakes. Malina, they are yours. You conduct research first, then send them to the chief forgemaster. He might also have discoveries. After the research is finally completed, the worms are yours, and the cloak is his. Your will be done. Malina raised a hand, and vines extended from her armor, coiling around the crystal coffin. She turned, the vines carrying the crystal coffin like tentacles, and walked out of the 11-meter-wide Primarch's office door. Qian, seeing the Black Emperor's gaze fall upon him again, continued his briefing. Despite the intelligence you provided and Lord Perturbo's meticulous planning, the Iron Warriors still paid a considerable price. To my knowledge, the number of casualties in the Campinas system campaign reached 7,490, and the total casualties on other fronts exceeded 5,000. The Iron Warriors also lost more than 200 ships, with no less than 70 of them being capital ships, approximately 1/3 of which were destroyed by the drone swarms of the artificial war satellite. The original body servant, in the pause between Qian's words, spoke with a hint of worry in his tone. My lord, we also suffered considerable losses in the 2 campaigns to liberate Shayna and the Vice Sector. 5,840 Order Shadows have been killed, and because librarians were generally involved in the battle, specifically dealing with the neural collars, the casualty rate was much higher than in the past, with a total of 130 killed. Ning Lu nodded slightly. He had expected this, but the divination dice still had over a year of cooldown, so he couldn't perform divination now. I will resolve this issue soon. The silver-haired original body servant, hearing the Black Emperor say so, also dispelled his worries. The 19th Legion, to repay your previous rescue, dispatched a fleet to bring you a gift. Balsa has received his legion's battle brothers and is waiting outside. Let them in, Ning Lu commanded. Arsena Dun and Qian bowed and then left. After the original body servant let Balsa and the 2 in, he began busily instructing his attendants to receive the upcoming visit Lord Perturbo. A moment later, Alistair, with an excited heart, walked into the Primarch's grand office. The office, made of obsidian, was so spacious that Alistair, who had just been promoted to captain by the Shadow Lord, felt that his entire squad could move freely within it. He respectfully performed the Skyhawk salute to the Gene Seed Primarch and then spoke. Lord Ning Lu, the 8th Roser of the 19th Legion salutes you. By the command of the Shadow Lord, I present to you 381 alien queens hunted during the Chu-Ale People War, and 25 planetary marker stones, hoping you will like them. I am very pleased with this gift, Ning Lu said with a smile. Alistair exchanged glances with librarian Balsa Kuturi, finding courage in the latter's eyes. Lord, the Shadow Lord hopes that I can stay by your side for a period of time, to serve you and learn something. The Baron of Corruption said with a smile, in a friendly tone. Alistair, welcome. I am very happy to accept your service. Alistair, who had made the request at the command of the Shadow Lord, did not expect it to go so smoothly. With anticipation, he became a Gene Seed Primarch's accompanying attendant. Ning Lu had Balsa take Alistair to settle down, while he went to his private storage room, moving the Chu-Ale queens and planetary marker stones to the disordered country. Before the last trip, he sent a message to Lady Captain Diana Bolan, ordering her to come to his office in 5 minutes. Subsequently, he came to the first level of the disordered country, and ordered the space monkeys to prepare the sequence 6 inches hypnotist potion using the Chu Ale people queens and mind control maggots. Diana entered the Primarch's office 10 seconds ahead of schedule. Drink it. Diana excitedly took the potion from the Primarch's hand. She looked at the transparent, colorless, viscous liquid. It vibrated and undulated in her hand, as if tiny vortices were silently swirling beneath its surface. She tilted her head and drank it all, and her skin immediately became covered with a layer of scales. A moment later, the newly promoted hypnotist, having reigned in the overflowing power of the potion, found the dragon scales on her body disappear, and she sensed the changes within herself. She felt that her physical qualities had been significantly enhanced. Her strength and agility had both surpassed ordinary human levels. The defense of the dragon scales, combined with combat hypnosis, means that from now on, I possess frontal combat capabilities. My combat power should not be inferior to that of an ordinary psychic. Close black lens bracket. She looked at Lord Ning Lu gratefully. When she was chosen as the flagship commander, she never expected to acquire such various miraculous abilities. 3 standard days later, the scarred Iron Blood arrived, and Perturabo, with his trident, took a Skyhawk shuttle to the Wenquan Shadow. Chapter 512, Perturabo, complete your artwork, and I will turn your ideal city into reality. Arsena Dun, representing Ning Lu, waited on the landing pad, and upon seeing Perturabo, he immediately stepped forward to salute. Sir, take me to Ning Lu. Arsena compared Lord Perturabo's tone and demeanor to the last time and thought with some uncertainty. He seems to be in a slightly better mood than last time. He didn't have time to ponder deeply and said respectfully, Sir, please follow me. Perturabo strode forward amidst the loud chanting of the servo skull. Gene Seed Primarch, Lord Perturabo, Master of Iron, Hammer of Olympia, Glorious Victor of Campinas. The trident followed their Gene Seed Primarch, more relaxed than their usual tension. Perturabo entered the palace, his ice-blue eyes sweeping over the asymmetrical architecture, then landing on Ning Lu, who was coming to meet him, and Qian behind him. He also saw 2 warriors whose armor lacked the Order Shadow's signature black livery, and from the numbers on their shoulders, he could tell they belonged to the 19th Legion. Perturabo, congratulations on your glorious victory in the Campinas system, where you destroyed the Xenos, artificial war satellite. Perturabo's ice-blue eyes sparkled, and he said admiringly, Ning Lu, your son is excellent. He played an important role in Campinas, and the Iron Warriors will learn from the Order Shadows. Ning Lu keenly perceived Perturabo's deliberately concealed pride and satisfaction, and he motioned for his original body servant to open the holographic projection. I would very much like to hear you personally introduce everything about the Campinas system battle to me. I am happy to share everything there with you, Perturabo said to Ning Lu, who looked at him in confusion. Without moving forward, I would like to invite you to the Iron Blood, where I will introduce everything to you. In my new works that I made in my spare time. Ning Lu heard this and said cheerfully, I would be delighted to visit your flagship. The 2 Gene Seed Primarchs took the same Skyhawk shuttle to the 20-kilometer-long, Iron Grey Rongguang Nuong class battleship. Ning Lu walked into Perturabo's command room, and he immediately felt a sense of oppressive atmosphere. Although this was one of the few places on the Iron Blood with windows, the windows were merely narrow, scimitar-shaped slits sandwiched between arched iron beams. The Iron Warriors and servitors, after saluting, immediately plunged into their heavy and busy work. Perturabo concisely began to introduce his tactical thinking and a series of actions adopted in Campinas, and Ning Lu occasionally gave appreciative responses. Gradually, Perturabo spoke in increasing detail. After a standard ship day, when he finished his narration, he still felt a lingering sense of unfulfillment. He walked to the workbench and pointed at a model on it. This is a fortress I casually built while commanding the campaign. Ning Lu walked to the model and leaned over to observe it. It adopts a modular design, allowing for the selection of energy core, defensive fortifications, firepower units, and other modules as needed. Clever design, appropriate resource allocation, and flexible to meet different firepower demands. You even considered the future, where civilian buildings and defensive fortifications are integrated, and every part of the building is a bunker, stronghold, and barracks. Perturabo said casually, "It's just a casual work, I will convert it into technical data and send it to you. I certainly need it, but I'd rather see your ingenuity in other areas besides war tools." Ning Lu asked tentatively, knowing that only Magnus had visited Perturabo's private collection. Perturabo's eyes lit up. "Of course," he said to Phrixus, his trident blade. "You all take the others to rest." Ning Lu followed Perturabo to his private palace. One of the long cables on his head connected to the door's cable, and then, accompanied by the rumbling sound of mechanical rotation. Ning Lu walked into Perturabo's palace. Compared to his own palace, this one was smaller. This was not only because the worthy shadow had more space, but also because Perturabo rarely stayed here. He was always busy in the command room formulating various plans and reviewing every report. Ning Lu felt a little dazed. Perturabo's palace reminded him of Ferrus Manus's iron chariot, a dwelling like a forging workshop. He immediately noticed the difference. Compared to forging, there were more engineering elements here. Workbenches with integrated environmental simulators, structural strength testers, and vibration test benches, laser files and variable temperature soldering irons arranged opposite each other. The entire palace had no measuring or calculating tools like digital calipers or laser rangefinders, yet it was orderly and neatly arranged. Ning Lu walked to a stone platform, where he saw drawings hanging around and lifelike artistic half-finished products on the stone base. Seeing that they had not yet been put into the private storeroom, he knew Perturabo still harbored some thoughts. What a grandly conceived city. It is based on Donifer Astokan's formula, and you have used the tools of science and art, with the law of perspective, to achieve perfect proportions. You understand the art of Olympia. Perturabo's cold eyes flashed with surprise. Ning Lu's gaze remained fixed on the model building complex. Your art has surpassed the ideas of Olympia. The ideas of that world are incomplete, and its philosophers focus on classification. The tools of art and science are the same. Everything is part of the same whole. You unify them with steel and glass, constructing magnificent building complexes and awe-inspiring palaces. Perturabo's eyes grew brighter and brighter. This was a design concept that even Magnus had not articulated, a secret he had hidden within the architecture, one he had once thought no one would discover. The Baron of Corruption's gaze finally fell on the most dazzling building, and the model instantly transformed into countless graphics, circular outlines, foundation plans. The most admirable is still the Grand Theater. It is a perfect embodiment of geometric beauty. Perturabo's mouth twitched, but before it could fully turn up, he quickly realized and forcibly calmed himself down. He recalled the artistic views they exchanged when the three of them went to the Galaxy Center together to formulate the battle plan to attack the squad. As Perturabo was immersed in his memories, Ning Lu looked at him, his dark eyes meeting the ice-blue ones. Why not finish it? Ning Lu had to admit that Perturabo's concept, combining practicality and artistry, was a perfect building, comparable only to Tizca. His previously designed exemplar city focused more on efficiency and environmental considerations. Even if I redesign it now from a geometric perspective, I can probably only achieve this level. Perturabo unconsciously averted his gaze, remaining silent for a few seconds before speaking. It requires a large amount of resources and is too fragile. It should not exist in the cruel galaxy of today. His eyes were filled with gloom. Peaceful and prosperous cities being destroyed in the fires of barbarians, in Terra's past, and in this galaxy, happens every moment. Therefore, it is meaningless. I think only you and Magnus would appreciate it, and other brothers would only consider it meaningless wreckage and a disaster. Art without protection and defense is a fragile thing, and our beautiful angel, his angel fortress, also has no space for art. Perturabo said helplessly. Father would also not allow me to spend a large amount of resources to build a utopia. No. Ning Lu shook his head in denial. Perturabo turned to look at him, his eyes filled with lingering melancholy. Art is not always fragile, as long as its shield is hard enough. My Ramirez-class Star Fort can guard the void, and my Fortress-class energy shield can protect the entire city. The Order shadows are the shield of protection. Ning Lu gazed into the ice-blue eyes and said earnestly, I have enough resources to build such a city, so. He emphasized his tone, promising. Perturabo, complete your artwork, and I will turn your ideal city into reality. I hope Vostronia can build such a city. Perturabo's eyes brightened, sparkling like azure stars, and his rock-like voice was uncharacteristically filled with warmth. Good. Stepping out of Perturabo's palace, Ning Lu naturally made his request. Perturabo, I would like to ask for your help in designing a special weapon. Of course, no problem, Perturabo said confidently, this will not affect me completing it. Chapter 513, Perturabo's Faith. Given that the weapon I need is still just a concept, I hope to get experts in this field to join. There is a time sage on your ship, Zurin-4. Ning Lu said directly. In the past, he would have been hesitant, considering whether seeking others' participation would displease Perturabo. But now, they had established a close relationship. Zurin-4 would also prove his superiority over Perturabo in the domain of time. In Ning Lu's memory, the time sage had discovered an error in Perturabo's design. Although not a decisive error, it was enough to cause the deaths of many Iron Warriors. He hoped to avoid all errors as much as possible. He did not want the Order's shadows to pay a bloody price for it. I'm not sure if such a person exists, Perturabo frowned. I need time to confirm. A moment later, a person wrapped entirely in a red robe came before the two Gene-Seed Primarchs. He raised his hooded head and spread his metal arms as he bowed. Time Sage, Zurin-4, salutes the Chief Forgemaster and Lord. Are you proficient in matters of time? Perturabo scrutinized the sage on his ship. Yes, Lord, I must admit this, for the power of time is understood by only a few in this era. I heard that people in the dark age of technology used time weapons, but then it was avoided. Unfortunately, my field is currently neither understood nor respected by my peers. After sighing, the time sage unreservedly displayed confidence in his own field. Facing these most obscure secrets, they lack the insight I possess. Few can comprehend time as I do, for it is the true engine of the universe. Of course, you and Lord Ning Lu can understand any profound mystery. Perturabo immediately caught the implied meaning in Zurin-4's words and said coldly. You claim to be dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, yet you incessantly babble about souls. Everything you do is inherently contradictory. I don't want to know how the robot feels today, because everything it tells you is nothing but your fantasy. The Emperor personally welcomed us into the Empire, Zurin argued. The Omniscia approved of our religion and forbade all others because he saw the truth in us. Perturabo said indifferently, My father is not the messenger of your God of all machines, no matter what you believe, or what he allows you to think. His tolerance for your sect is merely a matter of expediency. Your power is great, not to be swiftly subdued, and he also craves your industry to serve the cause of the expedition. Perturabo said disdainfully, I am not interested in any certainty other than what you derive from the application of fact and reason. I am deeply saddened that someone like you cannot grasp the true meaning of the Omniscia, for you are far more insightful than any sage. Perturabo said sarcastically, if you want to bring a Primarch into your church, why not try Ferrus Manus or Vulcan? I imagine they would also ignore your invitation. Zurin-4 did not answer immediately. The Mechanicus had been striving to spread the glory of the Omniscia to the Gene-Seed Primarchs. Ning Lu, Ferrus Manus, Perturabo, and Vulcan all displayed extraordinary qualities in different aspects. Among them, Ferrus Manus had already accepted the concept of the weakness of flesh and deeply integrated with them. Mars shared its knowledge repository with Ferrus Manus, authorizing him to view all sacred construction templates. The exploration fleet worked with the Iron Hands to establish one forge world after another, unearthing sacred templates second only to Lord Ning Lu, who was favored by the Omniscia. The sage who guided Ferrus Manus gained immense prestige and was highly valued by the Omniscia, having already become a great sage. Zurin-4 looked at Lord Ning Lu, who had remained silent, his voice array's synthetic tone carrying an eager tremor. "Lord Ning Lu, favored by the Omniscia, you must be able to see the divine light of the Omniscia." Ning Lu listened to their conversation, pondering how to completely win over Perturabo. Through previous efforts, he had established a close relationship with Perturabo. He was sure that he was one of Perturabo's two friends. He, who helped Perturabo turn his artistic ideals into reality, would be closer to him than Magnus. But for Ning Lu, this was not enough. After all, in some sense, loyalty is not absolutely equivalent to absolute disloyalty. At least, he would not give Perturabo the magic potion now. But to make Perturabo, who disliked faith, completely loyal to him, would be no easy task. Reviewing Perturabo's conversation with Zurin-4, Ning Lu concluded. Perturabo's adoptive father, Damex, was correct in his judgment of him. He indeed had faith in reasoning, science, and art. His faith in reason was not due to his emotional detachment or ruthlessness, thus pursuing the establishment of order at all costs. Perturabo feared what others could not see, stemming from a sincere desire to pursue order at all costs. Faith in reasoning, science, and art. Pursuit of order. A flash of inspiration struck Ning Lu's mind, and he already had the outline of a plan. As he pondered, he keenly heard the abnormal emotion in Zurin-4's voice array's synthetic tone. He smiled slightly, directly bringing the topic back to today's purpose. "Sage, let us set aside disputes. I now need a weapon to deal with a potential threat." Arsena. The original body servant immediately responded to Ning Lu's summons. He connected a data slate to a cogitator in the command room, projecting images restored by the gene seed Primarch's superhuman memory. The Hellrid, they were found between the ventilation access points on the voidship deck, thriving in the darkness. Their skin can release various toxins and also generate distortion fields that can confuse the Astartes' vision. Their most troublesome aspect is the entropic field generated within their bodies, which ages the surrounding environment, causing even Astartes to rapidly age. Perturabo's trident looked at each other. If these words had come from anyone else, they would have dismissed them as nonsense. But what Ning Lu said had to be taken seriously. Perturabo's ice-blue eyes were deep. After pondering for more than 10 seconds, he spoke, offering his thoughts. A stasis device with sufficient power could counteract the entropic field generated by the Xenos. Exactly, Ning Lu affirmed Perturabo's idea. He wanted Perturabo to design a weapon to deal with the Hellrid in advance. Once Sloth was obtained, the only materials missing for the Mentor of Disorder magic potion would be the Enslaved and the Hellrid. After the Randan War ended and the Legion recuperated, he would launch the Abyss of Saktrata campaign in advance. Ning Lu needed Perturabo to first create a prototype weapon, which the Chief Forgemaster and others could then specifically improve based on battlefield conditions. He thought of the error Perturabo had made, which Zurin-4 had corrected. A bomb in the form of a bomb could deal with the distortion fields of several Hellrid. But as the number of Hellrid increases, the distortion effect they create will also rapidly intensify. I overlooked this. Perturabo was annoyed by his lack of foresight. He looked at the Time Sage. "So, you called him?" Ning Lu nodded. "Exactly, only you can complete this device, but you need assistance." Vulcan's forging skills were unmatched, and Ferrus Manus possessed the most knowledge of profound mysteries. Perturabo's technical ability was no weaker than theirs, but he possessed even more genius creativity. He could always design weapons specifically based on battlefield needs. The Time Sage will assist you in completing this device. Zurin-4's metallic appendages lifted, and he said excitedly, "This is my honor. We might unlock the secret of temporal axis weapons, or design a temporal locator, thereby minimizing the time distortion of warp travel. I look forward to receiving the stasis field weapon and the model of the ideal city." Perturabo's ice-blue eyes gleamed as he thought of his ideal city. "You will see it." No sooner had he finished speaking than, almost simultaneously, his built-in communicator beeped, Ning Lu's communication beat hummed, and the communicators of the original body servant and others chimed. Perturabo walked to the holographic tactical table and slapped it heavily. The Xenos have launched a full-scale invasion. Chapter 514. Randan Aliens Full-Scale Invasion. Ning Lu walked to Perturabo's side, gazing at the galactic star map. He saw dense, crimson light points spreading across the northwest of the galaxy and thought to himself. Open black lens bracket. The operation to deploy the Ramirez-class star fort, quickly liberate Shayna, and then, along with Perturabo, retake the Vice sector, still had an effect. The central area of the burning war is not my core territory. Close black lens bracket. Ning Lu also noticed that the Colony-Ned New district in the northeast of the galaxy had inevitably been invaded. The Gene Seed Primarch picked up a data slate, examining the information, a torrent of data flashing through his mind. The Perheim sector has fallen, and 1.4 billion immigrants have been enslaved by the aliens. The Rosa subsector has been invaded by an alien fleet, and the 365th Expeditionary Fleet encountered an artificial war satellite, leading to the complete annihilation of the fleet. The Ryan star system has been invaded, the 804th Expeditionary Fleet was destroyed, and 4 regiments of the Solar Auxilia, reinforced by the 36th Company of the 5th Legion, are conducting guerrilla resistance. The Fortress World Resist Fortress is besieged and has lost communication for over 41 standard days. A moment later, the Gene Seed Primarch found the information he needed within the data torrent. Abyss Port, Lethe, Weeping, Corlando, and 32 other worlds were invaded by aliens with metallic skin. Ning Lu's eyes narrowed. Abyss Port was a crucial transportation hub in the Colony-Ned New district and could not be lost. Open black lens bracket. Although guarded by the Ramirez-class star fort, it is not foolproof. It must be relieved as soon as possible. Northeast of the galaxy, metallic-skinned aliens. Basmi Manik. Close black lens bracket. Balsa Kucheri, Alistair Rocha, and Perturabo's Trident accessed their cogitators with data slates, reviewing report after report. Their faces were grim. The previous battles with the aliens had already caused them considerable losses. They had thought they had severely wounded the aliens, but unexpectedly, the alien army launched an even fiercer attack. A thought arose in all of them. The aliens they encountered were more powerful than any other aliens they had faced before. They were even more powerful than the Orc Empire in the Flame Wheel star system and the Midas who ruled the Colony-Ned New district. Arsena Dun had already anticipated this. He knew that the Black Emperor had been preparing all along. The Ramirez-class star forts manufactured in advance had not been deployed, and he had also ordered all Legion warriors to assemble at Carium Gate, in addition to the necessary defensive forces. As everyone pondered, Perturabo's icy blue eyes looked at Ning Lu. We must formulate a battle plan. Ning Lu nodded. We should report to the War Council and the Emperor to seek support. Huang Laohan must be dispatched with the Omen Society, and other legions must also send forces to support. The Space Sharks and Ashen Claws, as well as Balsa and others, were not enough. Open black lens bracket. I want to corrode more people. Close black lens bracket. I agree. Perturabo realized that Ning Lu's previous words in the War Council were prescient. They needed more support. After the 2 Primarchs reached a consensus, they immediately submitted a request for support to the War Council in their joint names. Perturabo stared intently at the star map. Reinforcements will take time to arrive. We must act immediately. Ning Lu nodded gently. He had already conceived a plan and now only needed Perturabo's approval. Shayna can provide strong support for our counterattack. It is our base. The Iron Warriors have already established numerous fortresses in the Vice sector. I want your legion to defend this front line. I believe no alien can break through the iron line you establish. Ning Lu raised his hand and drew an area on the star map, including Shayna and the Vice sector. This area is our stable rear. With the Iron Warriors as the center, steadily advancing, we can gradually reclaim the fallen worlds. Of course, Perturabo said confidently, I will crush all aliens. Seeing Perturabo accept his arrangement, Ning Lu continued. He then drew a straight line on the star map, like a sharp blade. My legion will advance all the way. reclaim the Imperial worlds, leave behind guards, until returning to Carium Gate. Then, I will directly deploy to the strategic core area through Carium Gate, opening up a new front line. Dropping a heavy hammer directly into the aliens, Perturabo praised, I agree with your plan. Ning Lu spent another 5 standard hours discussing the details of the plan with Perturabo, then boarded his shuttle and flew back to the Worthy Shadow. Upon returning to the Primarch's office, he instructed Arsena. Immediately order the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th battle groups to attack the Randan aliens. The 9th battle group's target is Behentheim. The original body servant noted down the orders one by one. Yes, my lord. Ning Lu left the Jushin spear on the weapon rack and then went to the disordered country. With a thought, his spirituality spread, touching the light spheres, confirming that Howard Fend, Sanchez, and Thierry Vieira had no one around them, then pulled them into the disordered country. Because Pascal's abilities had not yet reached the standard Ning Lu had set, he had not informed the Lord of the 6th Battle Group about the Black Emperor and the prayer ritual. After the three arrived in the mysterious country shrouded in black fog, they immediately bowed to the Black Emperor on the throne. My lord, the Colony Ned New District has been invaded, you will immediately lead your battle groups to Abyss Port. Ning Lu finished speaking and sent Sloth's image and information to the three via a psychic link. You must be especially careful. The Basmi-Manic invasion by the Randan may have Sloth's presence behind it. Once you encounter Sloth, be cautious. Among them, there are those who can contend with Gene Seed Primarchs, and even stronger individuals. Ning Lu saw Thierry's eyes light up, knowing he loved challenging strong opponents, and he emphasized with a serious warning. Do not engage them alone. He emphasized to the weapon master, your weapons cannot cause substantial damage to the regeneration of the worm men. Finding an opportunity to throw grenades into their bodies is your only chance. Sanchez, Ning Lu said to the pyromaniac, your flames are the same, but more flexible than grenades, offering a greater chance. Howard, he said to the judge, your prohibition can interfere with Sloth's regenerative abilities, and imprisonment might be able to restrain them when wounded. If possible, imprison Sloth. Ning Lu paused for a moment, then continued. Do not overexert yourselves. He absolutely did not want Howard to lose his life for potion ingredients. Based on Keon's report and his memories, Ning Lu judged that Howard would have no problem dealing with an infiltrator alone. Victory against a supervisor was uncertain, and encountering a destroyer would be certain death. After instructing the three, Ning Lu said to Howard, inform Pasquale to immediately return to the Colony Ned New District. The black fog churned, and Ning Lu sent the three back to the real world. Chapter 515. The Wind Blessed, Daily, Flight, and the 9th Battle Group's order shadows in water tanks. The flagship of the 9th Battle Group, the Relic-class battleship, the Billow. 5 lower decks were opened up. Initially, it was 3, then it became 5. 2 figures flew in the air of the training ground, like black great birds with wings on their backs. The black power armor they wore was much lighter than ordinary power armor, and the wings on their backs were crafted by Malevalis, referencing the Yale type hunting lord set. The power armor was made of lightweight yet tough metal composite materials, but to reduce energy consumption, its mimetic camouflage ability was discarded, as stealth was not their fighting style. Neither of them used built-in wings for assistance, this was a pure flight contest. The fierce wind surging from within the wind blessed wrapped around their bodies, roaring like a hurricane. Nicholas, who had recently been promoted to wind blessed, flew in midair, weaving through a series of supports. The supports swayed non-stop as the hurricane swept past them. The positioning runes flashing across his helmet display showed Chesney high above, almost touching the dome. Chesney not only flew higher than him but also consistently maintained a lead of over 100 meters. He has fully mastered the power bestowed by our Lord and is a true wind-blessed. Nicholas suddenly felt the hurricane surrounding him recede, his body sank, and he plummeted downwards. The wind-blessed felt himself diving like a stormbird. Dust in the pipes was pushed by the strong wind onto the fairings at both ends, then sucked away by filters before impact. Nicholas glanced at his helmet's eyepiece. There were still 210 meters to the positioning rune at the finish line, and his descent speed was increasing. He struggled to straighten his body, ensuring his flight trajectory was forward, not downward. Through the helmet's visual layer, Nicholas saw Chesney calmly descending ahead, the hurricane around him instantly retracting. His body landed steadily at the finish line, neither forward nor backward. Nicholas's body slowed down, and the body he desperately maintained glided forward for a distance. Finally, as the fierce wind subsided, he uncontrollably landed on the ground. Nicholas glanced at the positioning rune. The displayed number was 58.2 meters. Lord Storm Lord, I lost. Your progress has exceeded expectations, Chesney said, walking towards him. Moreover, you didn't use your specialized storm-type psychic abilities. This is a pure wind-blessed contest, a way to master the power bestowed by our Lord. Nicholas did not dwell too much on the result. He felt his spirituality becoming more active, enjoying the pleasure brought by the wind-blessed's daily flight. Indeed, Chesney nodded, saying with a sigh, I used to think that each time I wanted to master the power bestowed by our Lord, it became increasingly difficult. But with the wind-blessed, it's different. The direction to master this power is very clear, you only need to use wind. He shared his insight with Nicholas. Of course, occasionally letting yourself get irritable will help you master it faster. The folk of rage are the same. As you say, Nicholas agreed, I think this is why our Lord gave us the Ealdari's way of the ferocious avenger. Anger contains powerful strength, but it can also easily lead to loss of control, which our Lord would not wish to see, said Chesney, who had followed the Black Emperor since Vostronia. We have already explored two directions, and we will put this into practice in the Behentime star system. I will lead the Honor Guard, adopting the War Mask, also from the Ealdari's Warrior's Way, to transform anger into strength, to be used as a weapon. You will lead the Librarian and selected warriors, entering the mental state created by our Lord to unleash the power of anger. I call them Storm Lords. Nicholas's eyes were deep. After accepting the Black Emperor's command, he and Chesney began to practice the way of the ferocious avenger in the 9th Battle Group. As a librarian, he integrated his mental state into it, pursuing a storm of power. Just as Chesney was about to speak, the communicator built into his helmet chimed. After he answered, the sound array master's voice came through. Lord Storm Lord, the fleet has arrived at the anchor point and can proceed to the Behentime star system in the real world. Initiate warp jump, Chesney commanded, then said to Nicholas, return to the bridge. As you wish, Nicholas followed Chesney towards the elevator. The elevators on the 9th Battle Group's ships were quite unique, with composite crystal materials decorated with shells and corals from ocean worlds. Through the crystal glass, one could see the Order shadows, immersed in individual water tanks on layer after layer of decks. Most of them were already folk of rage, but like the sailors, they enjoyed the churning in the water. The elevator ascended rapidly, and the moment the door opened, the librarian's eyes flashed. He felt a distinct change as the ship passed through the barrier. They went straight to the tactical table in front of the command throne, where the archaeologist, who managed the battle group's mimic chamber, had already compiled the scan results and presented the tactical data as a holographic image to his lord. Chesney gazed at the tactical table, observing that the red and blue forces were equally balanced. He turned his gaze to the right, browsing the 5 combat plans submitted by the student of ratiocination, who served as captain. Enlarge Combat Plan Number 2. At Chesney's command, a screen with a blue frame popped up and enlarged. Execute Combat Plan Number 2, code-named TIDE-9. Understood, the captain's reply echoed through the sound array channel. Millions of servants and crew, under dispatch, activated weapon systems and energized conduits. The punishment class reactor injected power into the thrusters, and every void ship of the battle group almost simultaneously increased its engine power. Frigates and destroyers launched first, like a tidal wave, crashing into the Randan ship formations. Like a tide eroding rocks, it scattered the alien ship formations. Beams and shells crisscrossed the Star Sea, illuminating the void. The Relic-class battleship's lance penetrated the entire Randan array, striking the flagship's hull, which was covered in spikes and flails. Battleships and cruisers followed, wave after wave, pounding the enemy's front line. In the vast Star Sea, silent explosions densely covered the flagship, and the withered bones of destroyed void ships radiated dazzling fire. Chesney gazed at the screen, filled with signals, gradually calming like an ebbing tide, and he gave a command. Prepare for landing. Within the 9th Battle Group's ships, the built-in communicators of the Order shadows in each water tank chimed with the assembly order. 1,950 folk of Rage and 3,290 sailors surfaced and exited their water tanks. Water droplets fell from their bodies, collecting into the circulation system. Drop pods, like a rainstorm, scattered across the primary planet of Behentime. Chapter 516, The Storm is My Domain. Nicholas led his 1,052 trained Wind Blessed onto the surface of Behentime's main star. They all came from the 2nd to 10th companies. 1st Company Captain Jorginho and his overlord Chesney adopted the same training method, a pure warrior method. The core of the Wind Blessed was 11 librarians from the 9th Battle Group, who were responsible for relaying Nicholas's orders to the other Wind Blessed. Nicholas checked the targeting runes in his helmet and issued commands on the Wind Blessed channel. Today is the moment to test the results of our training, and also your chance to earn renown for yourselves in the battle group. For the Gene Father, purify the aliens. Wind Blessed, advance. The Wind Blessed advanced with synchronized steps, their breathing gradually evening out. The emotion of earning glory subsided, and they successively entered a meditative state, then entered the Telemaria First Realm. In the true will state, they clarified their desire for glory and solidified the creed of the Wind Blessed. Discern the trend of the storm. Unleash firepower during an attack, sweeping away enemies. Stand firm in defense, unyielding in the storm. After receiving confirmation from the 11 librarians that they were ready, Nicholas gazed at the tactical data in his helmet. Confirming that the encountered slave army had no human identification signals and were other races enslaved by the Randan, he immediately issued an order. Storm Mask. Fire. The moment he gave the order, the librarians relayed the command into the minds of the Wind Blessed faster than any communication channel. Wind rose. The Wind Blessed, wearing their storm masks, raised their bedrock-type bolters. Their arms moved with extraordinary speed, pulling the triggers. In a single breath, the bedrock-type bolters equipped with hunter modules emptied their first magazines. Shredded flesh was rolled together, as if swept by a tornado. The Wind Blessed fired without missing, and no boltgun round hit the same target. The rapid firing caused the Order Shadow's arms to tremble slightly, their hearts pumped powerfully, and the secretion of adrenaline made their movements even swifter. After rapidly changing magazines, they waited for the enemy to enter optimal firing range. Hundreds of thousands of alien slaves charged the Wind Blessed's front lines one after another, but they could not match their killing efficiency. The Wind Blessed advanced calmly, receiving resupply repeatedly from the Rhino armored ammunition carriers produced on Firestorm Star. Again and again, repeating the cycle of shooting, advancing, and engaging the enemy. The power unleashed by the Storm Mask could not be released and satisfied, and some Wind Blessed began to grow anxious. One librarian was the first to notice a Wind Blessed under his command breaking formation. He was 2 steps faster than the Order Shadows in his team. Ascend to the 2nd realm. To become a Wind Blessed, in addition to mastering the Storm Mask, one must reach at least the Telemaria Mind Realm's 2nd realm, and captains must reach the 3rd realm. One after another, the Wind Blessed ascended to the Telemaria 2nd realm. Nicholas's eyes were deep, and his dark pupils suddenly dilated. Through his warped vision, he saw the storm brewing around the Wind Blessed. Nicholas nodded in satisfaction. This was exactly the result he wanted. His whites of his eyes reappeared, and he looked at the enemies appearing ahead. It was time to unleash the storm. Attack! The Wind Blessed were unleashed in an instant. 10 magazines were emptied in a few breaths, even the sturdy and durable bedrock-type bolters overheated due to the high-speed movement and firing. The machine's spirits issued dangerous warnings in their frenzy. A firestorm engulfed the alien army's front lines, and Randan aliens were torn apart in terror. The overlords were astonished, feeling their personal energy shields constantly vibrating under wave after wave of attacks. Librarians, the overlords are yours. Nicholas's thoughts stirred, and the conductive filaments connected to his neurocortex awakened thousands of metal plates crafted from exquisite pilocrete alloy. The hinged frame connected by microfiber bundles drove the wings to spread. A fierce wind surged within the wind blessed, and he immediately spread his wings and flew. His armored wings spread, and he roared as he flew towards the Brain Eater. The 11 librarians exited the Telemaria Mind Realm and entered Magnus's fifth realm. Psionic lightning and flames flickered, accompanied by bursts of explosions, and the energy shields of dozens of overlords shattered one by one. Storm. The wind-blast's renewed barrage of firepower tore apart the overlords' bodies. Nicholas instantly flew before the Brain Eater. He saw the dangerous light flickering in the red line piercing its head and felt the numb sensation caused by neurotoxin invading his brain. Although it had not yet caused him any substantial harm, he knew he had to deal with the Brain Eater as quickly as possible. Nicholas raised his staff, his eyes flashing with electricity, and the storm mask propelled the release of accumulated psionic power. After becoming a wind-blessed, his storm-type psionic abilities were further stimulated. The librarian alone created a hurricane. Thousands of aliens around the Brain Eater were swept up by the gale, and the overlords' personal energy shields flapped loudly. The wind-blessed glided elegantly, imitating the Black Emperor. His painted golden wings spread, their sharp edges slicing past alien after alien. Blue light shone, and force field energy crackled. Flesh scattered, mercilessly torn apart. The Brain Eater raised its curved arm, resisting the surging force pulling it, and saw the hurricane above its head rapidly turn blood red. The wind-blessed shook his staff, and the gale suddenly reversed its rotation. The Brain Eater was caught off guard and swept up by the whirlwind. The librarian shook his staff, and the compressed hurricane roared as it slammed into the Brain Eater. A series of explosions pierced the howling wind, resounding through the heavens and earth. The Brain Eater let out a terrified shriek, knowing it could never contend with its opponent in the air. Before the Brain Eater's curved tentacles could move, the wind direction suddenly reversed again. Its body swayed, falling and tumbling. Nicholas freely controlled the storm, constantly changing its direction and intensity, weakening the energy shields with a series of storm attacks. He gazed as alien after alien was torn apart, and even the Randan overlords could not endure long in the psionic storm. He watched the struggling Brain Eater, thinking to himself, "The storm is my domain. Once caught in it, you have no chance." After tumbling erratically in the air for a while, the Brain Eater discovered in horror that its energy shield had shattered. It realized it had to kill Nicholas. A crimson light rose, and psionic energy surrounded its body, allowing it to temporarily break free from the gale's restraint. The Brain Eater swung its crystal longsword, slashing at the Order shadows. With a clang, Nicholas folded his golden wings, blocking the crystal sword. Taking advantage of the moment the force field deflected the attack, Nicholas roared, transforming into a folk of rage. His arm sprang up like a cannonball, instantly slamming into the Brain Eater's head. The Brain Eater felt with terror that the Black Armor Warrior's fist was a storm. With a resounding bang, the Brain Eater's spherical head exploded. Chapter 517, Harnessing the Power of Rage. Surface of Bahentheim Prime. Chesney walked into the Land Raider from the front assault ramp. Dressed in custom-fitted armor, he sat in the commander's workstation without feeling cramped. "Please perform gene seed encoding verification." Chesney removed his gauntlet and pressed his hand onto the touch panel, and spikes immediately pierced his palm. For security purposes, all Land Raider controls required gene seed encoding verification to prevent unauthorized enemy use. Verification passed. "Welcome, my Storm Lord." Chesney gazed at the holographic tactical display in front of him, simultaneously raising his hand to insert the external connection cable of the central sensor into the implant port on his spine. The moment he established a connection with the tank, tactical data provided by the triple protected analysis engine array flooded his brain. The 9th Battle Group had gained the advantage in 27 of the 41 operational areas where fighting was engaged, with 12 operational areas in a stalemate, and only 2 operational areas at a disadvantage. He asked the tech sergeant beside him, "Are the identification results confirmed?" "Storm Lord, I have double-checked. It's in operational area C-14. The tech sergeant's servo arm held a writhing mass of worms, still squirming vividly. The archaeologist infused the surrounding runes with psychic energy, making the worms even more active. But this item is still in the experimental use phase. This mass of worms was obtained by Kian, captain of the 4th Company of the 4th Battle Group, in Campinas, and it is the corpse of a sloth rewarded to him by Lord Perturabo. The chief forgemaster and Lady Malina together created this item, hoping to use the mysterious connection between the sloth to discover the sloth lurking in the shadows." Chesney stared at the disgusting mass of worms and issued an order. "The area is too large. Pinpoint the exact distance to the target." The archaeologist infused more psychic energy into the runes, and hundreds of worms wriggled rapidly, gradually calming down after several minutes. "My lord, approximately 15 to 24 kilometers, the precise distance cannot be confirmed." Chesney only saw the constantly wriggling worms and didn't know how the tech sergeant confirmed it. He scanned the tactical data again. Area C-14 was precisely one of the 2 engagement areas where the 9th Battle Group was at a disadvantage. After a few seconds of thought, he adjusted the communication channel of the local communication array connected to his spine. "Jorginho, the tech sergeant has found suspected signs of sloth activity, and I must go to confirm it. You will temporarily take command. Deploy your elites to support Area D3. "Yes, my lord," Jorginho said to his friend before hanging up, "but don't make me responsible for too long. I just got dizzy from flying." Chesney laughed heartily. "It won't be too long." After hanging up the communication, he marked the direction of the sloth and issued the command to advance. The 11 land raiders of the Honor Guard had promethium burning fiercely in their Mars pattern adaptive thermal combustion reaction engines. The first 11 of the 20 track links on the Firestorm pattern land raiders represented the Legion, engraved with the Legion's emblem of wings, spikes, and an abstract crown. The subsequent 9 links represented the Battle Group, engraved with the Battle Group's blue wave symbol. Chesney reviewed the briefing for Operational Area C-14 and opened the tactical video. Bone Eaters, like towering giant trees, were barraged by dense beams of light, fired at the Firestorm pattern land raiders. The first wave of dazzling beams slammed into the front glasses. Tactical data from the sensors showed that the reinforced titanium and plasteel composite materials in key areas were penetrated, but not the master-crafted thermoplastic fiber mesh. Brain Eaters and Bone Eaters, as the 2 main races of the Randan, were the 2 main enemies faced by the Order Shadows. All parts of the Legion were conducting research against the enemy. The 9th Battle Group conducted its research based on its own armored assault advantage. The Battle Group's territory, Firestorm Star, had large-scale forging facilities that gave them production capacity comparable to many Forge worlds. Relying on their powerful industrial capacity, the 9th Battle Group quickly completed the deployment of land raiders, with only the 3rd Battle Group and 11th Battle Group being faster than them. In response to the thermal ray attacks of the Bone Eaters, the land raiders' thermoplastic fiber mesh was further reinforced to absorb and dissipate high-energy laser weapons. They were in the first of 2 ceramite layers, capable of withstanding extreme high temperatures and melt-a-weapons. Chesney reviewed all tactical reports and found that the modifications were successful. Land raiders on average sustained 3 attacks before being destroyed by the Bone Eaters. Key areas such as the assault ramp, front glasses, and hatches could withstand 5 attacks. After the 4th Company's Firestorm pattern land raiders released smoke, they fully utilized their mobility advantage. Coupled with targeted defensive enhancements, only 5 land raiders had been destroyed so far. The biggest problem faced by the Fourth Company was insufficient firepower to break through the Bone Eater's energy shields in a short time. There are 4 ways to destroy energy shields: absolute power like a Gene Seed Primarch, overloading energy weapons, concentrated fire from tripodal walkers or more armored vehicles, and fierce firepower. After reaching this conclusion, Chesney ordered the tech sergeant to edit the tactical video. The tech sergeant knew his lord's needs and swiftly edited footage of land raiders being destroyed by beams and order shadows being vaporized into the tactical video. After he sent the video to the Honor Guard members, Chesney immediately opened the communication channel. "Ragers, your moment of truth has arrived. Our target is the Randan's Bone Eaters. Now, put on your war masks." 100 folk of rage browsed the edited video, and anger burned within them. Their hearts pumped powerfully, blood circulation accelerated, adrenaline secreted rapidly. Unlike the surging power within their bodies, with their war masks on, their minds were exceptionally calm. The machine spirit of the Firestorm Pattern Land Raider, sensing the driver's anger, roared furiously. The 11 Firestorm Pattern Land Raiders, like black lightning, swiftly swept across the pockmarked ground, raising dust and gravel dozens of meters high. Berserker Mask. The Ragers, with anger as their hand, put on their Berserker masks. Entering a state of rage, a power 1,000 times greater than an injected combat stim, caused them to gasp in astonishment. Unleash your rage. Following Chesney's command, the laser cannons of the Firestorm Pattern Land Raiders simultaneously roared. The enraged machine spirits fired a series of dense beams at the Bone Eaters. The Bone Eaters were astonished to discover that the newly appeared black armored vehicles instantly unleashed 100 times the firepower of over 200 similar tanks at them. The Rager crew members, the moment the assault ramp was lowered, darted out like lightning. They simultaneously raised their Eticon plasma guns. The powerful forging capabilities of Firestorm Star met the equipment needs of the Ragers. Countless scorching beams converged in the air, forming an artificial sun. The sun engulfed the Bone Eaters. The energy shield shattered. Blow his head off. The Berserker Mask kept the Ragers exceptionally calm, and they perfectly executed Chesney's command. The orb of light swallowed the Bone Eater's head, and with a rumbling tremor, the Ragers unleashed their rage. They felt the pulsating psychic energy, calmly inspecting the Eticon plasma guns in their hands. Even the Eticon plasma gun, derived from space dwarf technology far more stable than Imperial plasma guns, overheated its barrel due to the Ragers' rapid firing. Chesney smiled with satisfaction. Rage was power. The Berserker Mask, which controlled them, was the source of the Ragers' power, and the key for the folk of rage to wield the power bestowed by the Black Emperor. The Honor Guard, with synchronized steps, boarded the Firestorm Pattern Land Raiders. Chesney, having gathered the Fourth Company, advanced in the direction indicated by the mass of worms. Chapter 518. Sloth, you can't escape even if you try. Wrapped in the shroud of the dead, Cone scurried through the Rocky Mountains in a panic. In the faintly glowing jar, samples of Order Shadow's blood constantly sloshed. Cone glanced back, the terrifying scene he had just witnessed flashing through his mind. How could the Black Armor Warriors' firepower be so fierce? They should be plasma guns in their hands, but how could a mere 100 people unleash such a falling, burning meteorite-like attack in an instant? It took Cone several seconds to find a word in his vocabulary to describe the scene he had witnessed. A falling, burning meteorite-like attack. He clutched the staff of necrosis tightly in his hand, and clusters of worms wriggled beneath the shroud of the dead on his body. I just wanted some tissue samples to study powerful constructs. I didn't expect to encounter such danger. I don't truly possess an undying body yet. If I were to suffer such an attack, even if I didn't die, I would be severely wounded. He thought of the Bone Eater whose brain had been vaporized and thought angrily. Useless. All of them are useless. I need to create more powerful servants. Without 10 warrior constructs, I won't risk coming out again. As an experienced infiltrator who had snuck into hundreds of worlds, Cone calmed himself down and thought about how to escape safely. The terrain of the surrounding area flashed through his mind, and suddenly, a cluster of worms on his face trembled in unison. The ocean. The Order shadows are busy fighting my useless servants on land, they definitely won't notice the ocean. Moreover, they are riding armored vehicles, which are not as agile as I am in the sea. Thinking of this, Cone immediately calmed down. He thought with a smug look. As long as I escape there and wait for them to leave, then blend in with the subsequent human colony ships or transport vessels, I can safely get away. Cone knew that after the battle, human transport ships would arrive to deliver reconstruction supplies. There would also be immigrants to replenish the lost population. Blending in with those ships would allow him to leave smoothly. Cone made up his mind and immediately ran towards the sea. The firestorm pattern land raider folk of rage once again donned their warrior masks, accumulating the power of rage. My lord, the archaeologist shouted excitedly, injecting spirituality into the worms in his hand. They changed when the battle just broke out. He stated with certainty, a sloth is nearby. Chesney heard this and looked at the cluster of wriggling worms in his hand. They're wriggling faster. It's not obvious, but they are indeed a bit faster, the archaeologist explained to his lord, gently stroking the cluster of worms with both hands. Can you determine the target's location through their reaction? Chesney pressed. The archaeologist repeatedly and quickly stroked the wriggling, viscous bodies, injecting spirituality to stimulate all the worms, carefully distinguishing subtle differences. Suddenly, his hand stopped. Chesney gazed at his hands. His right hand was at the 2 o'clock direction of the go-ahead direction, and his left hand was at the relative 8 o'clock direction. The archaeologist said with certainty, 2 o'clock direction. Chesney immediately marked the forward direction, and the firestorm pattern land raiders all turned. Amidst the roar of the engines, Chesney reviewed the tactical data for the forward direction. The moment he saw the auger matrix scan report, a mocking smile appeared on his face. The worm man wants to escape into the sea. The tech sergeant was stunned, then also smiled. The worm man doesn't know that our land raiders are like fish in the sea. Land raiders can operate in almost any type of planetary environment, possessing wide adaptability. Its hull completely isolates passengers from the environment and provides life support functions. Therefore, land raiders can operate on uninhabitable and airless planets, as well as under the pressure of the seabed. The 9th Battle Group, due to the presence of a large number of seafarers and folk of rage, further enhanced the underwater adaptability of the Firestorm type. The Firestorm type can not only propel itself on the seabed but also turn flexibly in the water. Chesney issued orders in the Joint Squad channel of the Honor Guard and the 4th Company. Adjust weapon systems, switch to underwater mode. Cone sped through the shadows, astonished to find that the Order shadows seemed able to pinpoint his location. He couldn't help but feel confused. I haven't sensed any foolish psychics trying to pinpoint my location, they would definitely be discovered by me. My Shroud of the Dead can block auspex, and there are no foolish psychics trying, so how are they pinpointing my location? Cone pondered for a long time but still didn't know how the Order shadows were pinpointing his location. He thought with some relief. Fortunately, I chose the ocean. As long as I escape into the sea, they won't be able to do anything to me. Wearing their bulky armor, they wouldn't catch up to me even if their legs broke. Cone thought, took a running start, and plunged into the blue sea. Clusters of worms swam calmly in the sea. Cone swam 2 kilometers without a care, then suddenly felt something abnormal. There seemed to be currents behind him. He was struck as if by lightning and sharply turned to look back. The next moment, all the worms on his body stopped wriggling, and he stood frozen in place. He saw black tanks, with rows of propellers extending from their sides, and energy spewing from their rear, indicating that they were equipped with pump jet propulsion systems. Cone saw hundreds of tanks, like a swarm of bloodthirsty sharks, spread out behind him, forming an encirclement. Even more terrifying, between the tanks, and in front and behind them, black armor warriors, one after another, moved like a school of fish. How is this possible? What kind of creatures are the Order shadows? They wear heavy armor, so why can they swim so fast? Before Cone could figure out what was happening, he suddenly felt the surrounding water surge rapidly, abruptly forming ocean currents in an instant. He snapped out of his daze, the worms wriggled frantically, and he turned and fled. But it was too late. He crashed into the ocean current, and his body was tossed and turned. Cone saw a man with golden wings on his back raise his palm, pointing in this direction. He can control water. How foolish. Cone, who had already mastered the ability to actively counter psychics, was about to give the opponent a painful lesson. Huh, it's not psychic power. Then how is he manipulating the seawater to form ocean currents? As Cone was confused, the wind-blessed's hands danced, and spirituality spread, stirring up currents. The wind-blessed's domain in the air was still nascent, but his control in the ocean improved further. In the water, the wind-blessed's abilities were comprehensively and greatly enhanced. On land, Chesney's psychic vision couldn't detect sloth. But in the sea, sloth was as obvious as a beacon. As soon as he entered the water, he saw the wriggling clusters of worms. Not using water control immediately was merely to let sloth go deeper into the ocean, and at the same time allow the seafarers, folk of rage, and sailors to form an encirclement. The wind-blessed extended his left hand, and streams of water immediately condensed into grasping claws. The claws formed by water control all grabbed onto the shroud of the dead. The wind-blessed retracted his arm, and the shroud of the dead was forcibly torn from Sloth's body. Cone struggled in the rolling waves, raising the staff of necrosis and aiming it at Chesney. The wind-blessed scoffed, raising his right hand. Countless streams of water converged and slammed into Sloth's body like cannonballs. He flicked his left hand, tossing the shroud of the dead behind him, and a sailor reached out and caught the spoils. The wind-blessed raised his hand again, and a water column rose out of nowhere, striking Sloth's wrist. A folk of rage twisted his body and grabbed the staff of necrosis. Cone felt empty, the shroud of the dead had been stripped away. His left hand ached, the staff of necrosis had been snatched away. Damn it! Cone looked at the black armor warrior with golden wings in horror. His body instantly disintegrated, scattering into clusters of worms. His body stretched to 3 times its length, wriggling like an arrow, shaking off the ocean current. The wind-blessed smiled confidently. If they were on land, he indeed wouldn't have many ways to deal with the worm man. Concentrating firepower to kill him would be the limit of what they could do. But this was the ocean, it was his home ground. Sloth, you can't escape even if you try. The wind-blessed's hands danced, and layers of ocean waves transformed into large nets. Cone was repeatedly beaten back by the waves. He constantly changed his form, sometimes like an arrow, sometimes like a ball. However, no matter how he changed his body, he was always confined within a 100-meter radius. His speed of condensing his body became slower and slower, and the amplitude of his form changes became smaller and smaller. You are a monster. Cone let out a helpless shriek. The wind-blessed firmly wrapped the spherical sloth in a net of water, and then 2 folk of rage put him inside a crystal ball. The stasis field activated, leaving Cone still confused and bewildered thoughts. Chapter 519, the second phase of Beander development. Wangquan Shadow. After practical verification in the Behentheim star system, Chesney's briefing entered its final stage, and he exchanged glances with Nicholas, the librarian beside him. We believe the best way to utilize the power of the Avenger is to unleash it rather than shackle it, which is also a more suitable approach for our battle group. The Berserker Mask will unleash our accumulated power of rage while still maintaining our sanity. Of course, the shackles of reason should still be our last line of defense, so I believe the cultivation of the Telemaria mind realm is necessary, especially for those who have not undergone the journey of the folk of rage. Ning Lu nodded slightly, agreeing with the Storm Lord's words, which also aligned with his plans. In his vision, each battle group should simultaneously have 2 Beander-centric systems. One system would be integrated into each company and delve into each squad, centered on the main pathway he selected, developing unique tactics. The core of the 9th battle group was the power of rage, the ocean, and future aerial superiority. His vision required Beyonders to realize it. In the first phase of Beyonder development planned by Ning Lu, each squad was to have one Beyonder of the battle group's main pathway. They were the foundation. Now, having entered the second phase of Beyonder development, Ning Lu's set goal was for each squad to possess Beyonders of the battle group's main pathway. Among them, the sequence should be one high and one low. In the current stage, most are a sequence 8 as captain, with another sequence 9 serving as his assistant. The current 9th battle group, for example, has a folk of rage as captain, assisted by a sailor. Each squad should also have Beyonders of other pathways to enrich the squad's Beyonder ability system. A reasonably matched Beyonder squad can handle complex situations. In the short term, his goal was for each squad to be further equipped with 3 Beyonders of different pathways, meaning each squad should have 5 Beyonders. The other system, like the Berserkers, would gather a large number of Beyonder elites from the battle group's main pathway. Currently, the Honor Guard and 1st Company of the 9th Battle Group have initially formed this kind of force. While Ning Lu pondered, he spoke to Chesney and Nicholas with appreciation. "Your exploration is of great significance," he then instructed Arsena Dunn, "summarize the experience and require other battle groups to learn from it." The original body servant, who had been recording on a data slate, looked up. "As you command, my lord." The Black Emperor's praise and approval invigorated Chesney, and he began to outline his subsequent plans. "I have decided to promote the Berserker Mask throughout the 9th Battle Group, striving for every member of the battle group to master it. The battle group's elites will master the War Mask, accumulating more power before battle erupts. Librarians, tech sergeants, and apothecaries, as well as special royal court monks, will invest more in Telemaria mind realm cultivation to shackle the power of rage with reason." "Very good," Ning Lu, seeing that Chesney had thought things through clearly and had a well-organized plan for the battle group, spoke to support his idea. "Proceed as you wish." The Baron of Corruption then cast his gaze upon the spoils brought by Chesney. In addition to the Shroud of the Dead, the Staff of Necrosis also exuded spiritual light, clearly Beyonder ingredients. "Arsena, send these 2 items to the Chief Forgemaster's forge number for research." Ning Lu finally turned his gaze to the crystal ball, where Sloth was weakly bound within a force field, solidified like a ball of worms. "Open it." Arsena Dunn, Malin Ascala, and Nicholas instinctively recoiled from approaching the crystal ball. All 3 psychers could feel the evil consciousness of the creature inside, and even with the Black Emperor's reminder, they reigned in their own consciousness, but they could still feel the terrifying consciousness pervading the room. They all maintained the Telemaria 3rd realm, allowing themselves to stand in the palace with a relatively composed demeanor. Chesney calmly walked towards the crystal ball. He could also feel Sloth's evil consciousness, but it was much less intense. Ning Lu observed the different expressions of the 4, discerning their differences. His gaze fell on Arsena and the other 2, and he thought to himself. Psychers have a close connection with the warp, mobilizing warp power to unleash psionic abilities. Sloth's evil will, like an untouchable, directly acts upon the warp. Sloth would sever the connection between psychers and the warp and affect them, causing them obvious discomfort. This was even with Sloth exhausted and in a static, dormant state, not actively using its suppression ability, but merely the result of its natural influence on the surroundings. Ning Lu thought of how most Randan aliens possessed psionic abilities, yet Sloth could enslave them. Perhaps Sloth suppressed them to achieve enslavement. The Brain Eater's psionic abilities are ineffective. Sloth is immune to toxins and diseases, and swordsmanship cannot destroy Sloth's constantly regenerating body. Against methods like necrotic bodily fluids, it is no match at all. Even an infiltrator could easily handle a Brain Eater. Ning Lu turned his gaze to the distinctly different Chesney, pondering the differences in Beyonders. Open black lens bracket. The power of Beyonders comes from potions and relies on consuming one's own spirituality to unleash Beyonder abilities. Therefore, the wind blasts, water control, would not be suppressed by Sloth. Although most of the time, Beyonder abilities and psionic abilities show no external difference, they would have a unique advantage when confronting Sloth, Untouchables, and even the Necron's Blackstone technology. close black lens bracket. Ning Lu leaned back on the throne, making his final summary. Open black lens bracket. As long as they wisely avoid using psionic abilities, Arsena and the other two would have a chance to win against a sloth infiltrator. With prior preparation, a detective could achieve victory. In an environment with a vast ocean or open space for flight, a wind-blessed could easily win. In a chance encounter, a biologist could defeat a worm man in any situation, close black lens bracket. While Ning Lu pondered, Chesney arrived before the crystal, tapping his gauntlet on a rune. A series of runes glowed, and the crystal ball opened. A pool of seawater spilled out, wetting the obsidian floor. Nearly half of the remaining seawater, still under the influence of residual spirituality, tightly enveloped the spherical worm. A worm awakened from its slumber. It slowly swayed its body, bumping into several surrounding worms. Worms awakened one by one, writhing madly. Cone felt unusually weak. He took 5 times the usual time and consumed 10 times the usual energy to pull himself into a mass of sharp spikes. Bang, bang, bang. Amidst a series of crashing sounds, masses of worms burst free from the seawater cages that bound them. Ning Lu waved his hand, stopping Chesney's actions. He rose and instantly appeared before Cone. He raised his left arm but made no further movement. Light and shadow flickered in the Gene Seed Primarch's eyes, and his consciousness spread towards Sloth. The Gene Seed Primarch's consciousness collided with the evil, dark will. In the collision, his brow furrowed slightly. Cone reformed into a human shape. He felt a vast mental force applied to him. He let out a contemptuous hiss, his will condensing, and counter-attacked the foolish psyker. Ning Lu immediately felt a throbbing sensation in his temples, and a buzzing echoed in his ears. Not just passive defense, but also active use of psionic suppression. If not a supervisor, then close to that level. Psionic suppression. Let's see if you can suppress this. The Gene Seed Primarch instantly ascended to the Telemaria First Realm. His temples instantly calmed, and the buzzing in his ears disappeared. He then ascended to the Telemaria Second Realm, and golden light erupted from his spine. The light pierced through the viewing window, shooting into the cold, empty void. The Gene Seed Primarch's mental force struck down like heavy hammers, colliding with the evil will's sturdy shield. An invisible collision fiercely played out in the mental domain. The worms twisted madly, but the Gene Seed Primarch stood unmoving. The Gene Seed Primarch ascended to the Telemaria Third Realm, his will pressing down on Sloth like a mountain. How is this possible? Having traveled through 100 worlds, this was the first time he had encountered an existence that could suppress him with psionic abilities. Such a bizarre event had never occurred in the history of the Sloth people. Cone glanced in panic at the black-armored, gold-winged figure, and a name struck his evil thoughts like lightning. Ning Lu, the Gene Seed Primarch of the Order Shadows. He immediately dispersed himself into masses of worms, scattering as if his body were dissolving. Ning Lu gazed at the scattered worm man, comparing his own strength. Without taking risks, my psionic abilities can defeat a sloth supervisor, but I would likely be injured against a destroyer. Ball Saver, the premature rescue of Omega, cannot involve psionic abilities. The Baron of Corruption injected spirituality into his power fist and thrust it out fiercely. A golden light shone, and dazzling golden radiance illuminated the entire Primarch's office. The light of the lumen lamp paled in the shining golden light. Ning Lu gazed at Sloth, encased in the amber-like liquid, and thought to himself. Sloth are not numerous, which is why they have always hidden behind the scenes. The previous Beander ingredients were wasted. Not every battle is in the sea. To capture them, I still have to rely on the judges, imprisonment. I hope that in the future, every company of every battle group of mine will have a judge. Chapter 520, The Lucky One, in an unfortunate teleportation. Colony Ned New District, Weeping Star System. Flamini took over the 4th Company after its captain was killed in the Battle of Gardinal. Wearing a Saturn-pattern Terminator prototype manufactured on Hurricane Star, he led his guard towards the teleportation platform. His raised left leg paused in midair before landing on the ground. The precognitive psyker felt a blurry mist envelop the teleportation platform. The mist vanished in an instant, and he frowned. As the lucky one, he was certain today was his lucky day, but he had just felt a hint of foreboding. "Captain, is something wrong?" the captain of the guard asked, puzzled, noticing his captain's unusual behavior. Flamini did not answer immediately. His eyes were deep, and he raised his head. His gaze pierced through the barrier between reality and the warp, and having fully mastered the power of the robot, he saw more than ever before. He saw a vortex formed of invisible colors, nameless emotions, and baseless dimensions. He also saw delicate, threadless lines flowing into the trickling stream of future events. Flamini used the techniques of the Thousand Suns and Black Raven school. He had recently dabbled in to control his pre-battle excitement, ensuring his gaze would not disturb his surroundings. The moment his gaze dipped into the trickling river, he saw layers upon layers of metal. Just as he was about to discern it carefully, the layers of metal suddenly shattered, piece by piece, as if crushed by some force field. Metal, crushed. In the data from Gene Father, Basmi Manik has metallic skin. The revelation I received is that we will tear apart the Xenos. Flamini interpreted the divination's revelation, arriving at a somewhat uncertain conclusion. The lucky one's extraordinarily high intuition made him always feel that something was amiss. He had a premonition that on this lucky day, he would encounter some setbacks. As he pondered, the voice of the monitoring station supervisor sounded. "Captain, teleportation point located." Within the hexagonal adamantium pillar area, the force field crackled. The teleportation operator reported, "Ready, sir." Flamini continued to step forward, reconfirming that his overall day would be smooth, and then said to the captain of the guard in his usual tone, "Nothing." The captain of the guard breathed a sigh of relief and matched his captain's pace. As a newly promoted robot, he was not unfamiliar with his captain's unusual states. He had gone through the complete monster phase and often experienced sudden, abnormal feelings, sometimes appearing as an abnormal trance in the eyes of his battle brothers. As he pondered, he had already followed his captain onto the teleportation platform. Activate teleportation. The current surged, concealed by the curtain, without harming the eyes of the chapter serfs. Flamini immediately felt a chill penetrate his body. He instantly and keenly sensed something was wrong. It was colder than when teleportation runes had jumped in the past, as if he were suspended over a bottomless abyss. The Basmi Manik's ship has a teleportation interference device. As this thought arose, he felt as if he had fallen into an iceberg. Teleportation was in progress, and he was not a psyker of the demon or telekinetic type, leaving him helpless in this situation. Flamini subconsciously violated the imperial truth, seeking refuge from his Gene Father. "Gene Father, please protect me." Flamini's boots landed on the solid deck, and only then did he breathe a sigh of relief, devoutly exclaiming, "Praise the Gene Father." Flamini's relief turned to sorrow in an instant. The lucky one felt one guard member embedded in a metal wall and another hanging inside a metal pillar descending from the ceiling. He grasped his surroundings, the interior of the Basmi Manik's vessel, where the bulkheads were roughly 4 times thicker than those of human ships. The entire deck was covered with various metal objects, metal pillars hanging from the ceiling, metal spikes all over the floor. Catastrophic teleportation. Flamini also noticed the Basmi Manik rushing towards him. They were tall, a third taller than he, even in his Saturn pattern Terminator prototype. Wrapped in metallic skin were creatures like yaks, their bodies covered in dense, black fur. Rows of skulls hung from their chests. They let out bestial roars, swinging spiked metal clubs with their thick arms as they charged. The lucky one instinctively felt that the full-speed charging Basmi Manik had not spent any time observing their surroundings. Their bestial instincts allowed them to move swiftly between metal pillars and spikes, completely unaffected. "Attack!" Flamini shouted over the comms channel. The Saturn pattern Terminator prototype's reactor roared, and the plasma blast gun roared, spitting out a beam of light at the Xenos. Flamini watched as the dazzling beam slammed into the Basmi Manik's head. Every black hair instantly vaporized, leaving the Xenos, head bald, but the Xenos did not fall. In the middle of its head, layers of strange metallic skin were significantly thicker than elsewhere. That spot had blocked the plasma blast gun's attack. Terrifying defense, even stronger than power armor. Flamini realized the Basmimanic's terrifying defense and immediately issued an order over the comms channel. Flank attack. Attack their fur. Missiles trailing light soared from above Flamini's head, flying towards the 11 o'clock direction. Boom. Flamini saw the armor-piercing missile tear through the beast's massive head. Its thick fur instantly vaporized, but its metallic skin remained undamaged. The dark metallic skin, propelled by inertia, charged forward and crashed to the ground. Just as Flamini was about to launch another attack with his fully charged plasma blast gun, he suddenly felt a chill from his right side. Teleportation. He couldn't help but secretly worry about his battle brothers who were about to arrive on the battlefield. He raised his arm to attack towards the 2 o'clock direction, simultaneously turning his head to look. As the light flashed and before it dissipated, the Lucky One had identified the newcomer. Chapter Master Pasquale. His pupils subconsciously constricted. He had already foreseen Pascal's unfortunate future. Pascal's body was teleported onto a spike, followed by his Saturn pattern terminator, and finally the thermal reactive field enveloping his armor. In the physical world, all this happened in an instant, but in this unfortunate teleportation, there was a clear sequence. The spike pierced Pascal's left leg, then became lodged in the Saturn pattern terminator prototype's armor, with the protruding part subsequently torn apart by the thermal reactive field. The Lucky One, even through the thermal reactive field and the heavy Saturn pattern terminator armor, could see that the metal spike, only a meter long, had pierced the left leg and was twistedly jammed inside the armor. He also felt that a member of the Chapter Master's honor guard had been teleported inside a metal pillar, forever fusing with it. Compared to the Chapter Master, compared to others, I am the Lucky One in this unfortunate teleportation. The Lucky One felt a bestial Basmimanic, crossing the line of fire, charging towards Pasquale. He immediately moved his feet, his left arm's power claw crackling as it collided with a large metal club. Bang, bang, bang. In a series of collisions, Flamini's body swayed. A terrifying, beast-like strength. He slid his feet, drawing the Basmimanic away from Pasquale, and simultaneously switched comms channels, shouting to the Chapter Master, "My lord, teleportation must be stopped immediately." Flamini circled behind a pillar. He raised his arm, just about to deliver a plasma blast to the beast Xenos. Thump, thump, thump. The Basmimanic's Xenos club slammed against the metal pillar. The Lucky One hadn't expected the Xenos' bestial intuition to make an error, but he immediately seized the opportunity, raising his power claw and plunging it into the Basmimanic's right side. The force field crackled, tearing through the Basmimanic's unprotected elbow and the latter half of its arm. Thud, the metal-skinned forearm crashed to the ground. Flamini raised his power claw again at the same moment he heard the Chapter Master's voice on the chapter's comms channel. Honor guard, all companies, cease teleportation. Flamini breathed a sigh of relief. He savagely plunged his lightning claw into the Basmimanic's ribs, through its dense fur. Accompanied by a booming crash, he saw two beast Xenos swinging large metal clubs, furiously smashing at Pasquale. Flamini immediately attacked, supporting Pasquale. Missiles trailed, and plasma beams, like a solar flare, shot towards the two Xenos. With a bang, Pascal's left leg was struck. He stumbled to his knees, and another beast Xenos snarled, swinging its club, smashing it onto his helmet. Rumble. Flamini saw the two Basmimanic and his Chapter Master collapsed together, and felt that only 13 Saturn pattern Terminator prototypes remained around him. The captain of the guard walked to his side. Bestial roars echoed from all around, growing louder and louder. The Xenos possess teleportation interference devices. We cannot risk further teleportation. We also have no reinforcements in the short term. Captain, your orders. Chapter 521. Similar circumstances, no longer needing to bear everything alone. Flamini suddenly felt a sense of familiarity, as if he had returned to his youth, leading human refugees, hiding from the Midas in the sewers. A flashback to his memories as an Order shadows allowed Flamini to find a way to deal with the current situation. Retrieve the power condensates. His calm tone reassured his battle brothers, and they immediately sprang into action. The apothecary activated the special retrieval device designed for the Terminator armor. With an unsettling sound echoing through the deck, the protruding parts of the gene seed pierced out from within the body. The other royal court monks also took action, activating their psychic vision to search for items exuded from the corpses. Pascal's captain of the guard had been killed by the Basmimanic people while protecting him, so Flamini went to his side. He didn't need to activate his psychic vision, his extremely high inspiration had already guided him to the black, viscous crystal. Flamini pulled out a crystal ball from his waist and placed the black, viscous crystal inside. This was a request made by the Gene Father when he bestowed power upon him. As Flamini placed the crystal into the crystal ball, he suddenly realized that the situation was now different from his time in Monarchia. He no longer needed to shoulder the responsibility alone, bearing everyone's expectations. He had more battle brothers with outstanding abilities by his side. After Flamini tucked the crystal ball into his armor, he asked in the squad's Vox channel. Pascal's guard, I will lead you to find a path to victory in the beast's lair. But I need your help. Now tell me, what powers has the Father bestowed upon each of you? The apothecary placed the gene seed into the retrieval device, which was filled with cold mist, and was the first to speak, Beast Tamer. The other royal court monks looked at the Baron and also spoke up. They obeyed orders more based on rank than on Flamini being a company captain. Monster. Trickmaster. Lawyer. Flamini's eyes lit up when he heard there was a trickmaster in the guard. He had even more confidence in the upcoming guerrilla warfare. He made a request to everyone in the squad. We will not receive reinforcements for a short time, so manage your energy well. Losing power will make it difficult for you to move, which is tantamount to death. 1. Lawyer, from the chapter master's honor guard gazed at the Basmimanic people's corpses. They are skilled in close combat, and there are too many of them. We will be surrounded and killed by them, just like Lord Pasquale. He suppressed his sorrow and anger, calmly analyzing the current situation. So, during combat, we must adopt a circular formation, where every warrior can guard their left and right. The lawyer was silent for 2 seconds, then said, a circular formation is a classic defensive formation used when outnumbered, but there are too many Xenos, we might be surrounded and worn down. Of course, the lucky one said confidently, we must seize the opportunity. When to fight, when to retreat, this is what I excel at. When I give the order to break through, unleash your full firepower. What Flamini didn't tell them was that he had already detected an energy anomaly, which was the source of the teleportation interference. The lucky one surveyed his surroundings, finally pointing to the deck on the right. Trickmaster, opening door. The Trickmaster immediately stepped to the spot indicated by the royal court baron and placed his hand on the metal wall. He instinctively felt that the metal wall was several times thicker than the chapter's flagship, but this did not stump him, it was still within his understanding and not too thick. As the Trickmaster's psychic energy spread, a blurry, ethereal, luminous blue door suddenly appeared before him. It was embedded in the wall yet still showed traces of metal. The Order shadows quickly passed through the water curtain-like door, and then the door disappeared. The Basmimanic people who surged onto the deck stared with wide eyes, searching the deck, but only saw broken corpses and intact armor strewn across the floor. On the adjacent deck, separated by just a wall, the Order shadows, clad in Saturn pattern Terminator prototypes, had already formed a circular defensive line as commanded by the royal court baron. From the position chosen by the lucky one, they precisely charged into the center of the Basmimanic people's line. The lucky one knew that with the chapter master's death, his guard members were filled with shame and now needed a victory to boost morale. Even when heavily outnumbered, he did not want to merely flee, he had to seize every opportunity to inflict casualties on the enemy. A snarling Basmi-manic was the first to attack. The warrior raised his arm, his unenergized fist blocking the club. The club in the Basmi-manic's hand was jolted upwards. He looked down at the black armor warrior, his crimson eyes, hidden beneath thick fur, filled with astonishment. The black armor warrior, much smaller than himself, actually possessed strength comparable to his own. He let out a bellow like a wild bull, swinging his club to attack. He suddenly felt a strong gust of wind from his side, and a punch landed on his unarmored flank. The Basmi-manic was knocked off balance. The warrior's claws took the opportunity to grip his wrist, which was clenched around the club. The claws failed to tear through the tough metallic hide but firmly locked the Xeno's arm, while the arbiter and the lawyer attacked from both sides. A heavy punch smashed into the Basmi-manic's right ribs. Accompanied by the explosion-like sound of splintering ribs, he could no longer hold the club in his hand. With a booming roar, the lawyer's combat knife plunged into the Basmi-manic's body. The warrior kicked the Basmi-manic to the ground and picked up the club at his feet. With the club in hand, the warrior sidestepped, dodging an incoming club swing. He casually swung the club, as if he had practiced it 1,000 times, and the metal club smashed into the Basmi-manic's club from the side. The lawyer caught the Basmi-manic's exposed back. He seized this opening, as per Osber via Article 23, and swung his combat knife backhand, plunging it into the broad back. The Order Shadow's circle sometimes expanded, sometimes contracted. They covered each other, maintaining the integrity of their defensive line. The Basmi-manic people rushed madly at the Order Shadows like wild beasts, but fell one after another. More and more Basmi-manic people poured onto the deck. They anxiously wanted to charge at the enemy, but the space around the circular formation was limited. The corpses further reduced the area the Order Shadows needed to defend against attacks. In Flamini's helmet's internal timer, an hour passed, and the circular formation showed no signs of being breached. Suddenly, the Lucky One sensed several aggressive presences rapidly approaching. He turned his head to the deck entrance at 3 o'clock and saw a figure, a head taller than the other Basmi-manic people, pushing aside Xenos and rushing onto the deck. Flamini immediately shouted into the comms channel, 6 o'clock direction, break through. The Order Shadows immediately activated their reactor weapon systems, and missiles, trailing light, tore through the heads of a dozen Basmi-manic people. The squad, having built tacit agreement through combat, moved in unison, like a black steel ring in a metal ocean, cleaving through all obstacles. The squad charged off the deck in the direction where there were no tall Basmi-manic people. Then Flamini gave an order to the Trickmaster. Entrance, falling down technique. The Basmi-manic people's primal instinct surpassed visual and auditory perception, so abilities affecting the senses like flash, blackout, and fog generation were useless and couldn't slow them down. The Trickmaster immediately raised his hand, and the entrance behind him seemed to be coated with a layer of grease. The Basmi-manic people rushing forward stepped on the entrance, immediately slipped, and crashed to the ground. The Basmi-manic people who followed wanted to slow down, but they were too close and it was already too late. He felt his feet stick, then his body tilted, and he crashed onto the rolling Basmi-manic people. A series of chain reaction falls completely blocked the entrance. The tall Basmi-manic people rushed to the entrance, only to see their humiliated kin on the ground. He angrily reprimanded them, pulling and embracing to clear a path, but the black armor warriors had long since vanished. The Lucky One led the squad in guerrilla warfare within the Basmi-manic people's metal warship. They killed one Basmi-manic after another, breaking through layers of encirclement. The squad moved like a snake, curving upwards, advancing towards the energy anomaly he had sensed. 5 hours later, the squad finally burst onto the deck with the energy anomaly. The Order Shadows saw a giant skeleton hanging overhead, and a group of strange Basmi-manic people stood around it below. They were covered in skeletons, holding bone staves, chanting Xeno languages that sounded like beast roars. Attack! Following Flamini's command, the squad attacked the skeleton. Blazing energy beams hammered down on the skeleton like rain. The skeleton trembled violently, emitting a piercing screech. Roar! A deafening roar erupted, and a metal beast, whose shoulders towered over the other Basmimanic people, charged onto the deck. The Saturn pattern Terminator prototypes simultaneously fired missiles from their shoulders. Boom! 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 The missiles struck accurately, but the lucky one sensed that the Basmimanic had not sustained serious damage. His entire body was covered in metallic hide. Only one place was not, the top of his head, but the Basmimanic covered it with his arm. The lucky one raised his arm, his plasma blast gun aimed at the skeleton. The position he fired at was not one calculated by a superhuman brain, but one perceived by psychic intuition. As the blazing beam erupted, a Basmimanic was flung by the shockwave, crashing into the skeleton. The giant skeleton tilted, and then the plasma beam struck the skeleton. The skeleton's trajectory was altered, and it coincidentally crashed into the charging giant Basmimanic. As the Basmimanic was knocked flying, a missile trailing from the top of Flamini's head flew out, hitting him precisely on the top of his head. With an explosion, the Basmimanic's corpse slammed to the ground. Flamini felt as if stars were shattering within him, and he sighed in his heart. I am truly the lucky one now. Today is truly my lucky day. Chapter 522, The Euclidean Sigil. 844. M30. Wangquan Shadow, Primarch's office. My lord, Arsena Dun said, holding a data slate, the 4th and 11th battle groups have broken through the Ran Dan front line and have reached the Obscurus sector. The other 6 battle groups are expected to enter the Obscurus sector within 15 standard days. Ning Lu nodded slightly, satisfied with the legion's progress. As of now, 4 Titan legions have been surrounded by Xenos and completely annihilated. The Emperor has decided to dispatch the Harrowing Convent to deal with the Xeno threat. Ning Lu heard that Huang Laohan had finally sent out the Harrowing Convent and couldn't help but think to himself. Huang Laohan finally recognized the immense threat of Ran Dan and dispatched his trump card. The Dark Angels, Ultramarines, Space Wolves, Emperor's Children, Thousand Sons, and Word-Bearers were the first to respond to your and Lord Perturbo's requests for aid, sending warriors as reinforcements. Ning Lu's eyes lit up, and he thought to himself. The opportunity for corrosion has arrived. Have the commanders of the various task forces been confirmed? My lord, only 2 have been confirmed so far. The commander of the Thousand Sons is Librarian Hather Mayat. Ning Lu was not surprised that Magnus had sent Hather to support him. He had once been seconded to his legion, serving by his side, and was a bond of friendship between the 2 legions, naturally making him the best choice. The commander of the Emperor's Children is 2nd Company Commander Akurduana. Akurduana. Upon hearing this, Ning Lu immediately recalled the Battle of Gardinal. Akurduana was originally sent by Fulgrim in 869 to his close brother, Ferrus Manus. At the end of the Battle of Gardinal, when the desperate Gardinal people used a ring world weapon to attack Ferrus, he broke into the command room and detonated the command center at the cost of his life. Akurduana is the ceiling of combat power among the Astartes, only a handful of people can rival him. He is indeed a talent. Although Sequence Fender, Wind Blessed, Chesney, and Rose Bishop, Ramsey are certainly stronger than him in combat. Among Sequence 7, Pyromaniac, Sanchez and Weapon Master, Thierry Vieira are also not weaker than him, but if I can corrode him, I don't mind having too many talents. Ning Lu considered the possibility of corrosion, Akurduana. It's not impossible. He has a considerable degree of loyalty to Ferrus and generously went to his death. Akurduana admires the strong. Corrosion, him is actually not difficult, at least much easier than Balsa-Kuchuri. Well, I am also his savior, so it is only right for him to be corrupted to serve me. What about the commanders of the other Legion task forces? Ning Lu asked. The Astropathic Choir Master is currently contacting the other legions. I will report to you immediately upon confirmation. Order them to muster at the Kalem Gate, Ning Lu commanded. After the original body servant left, a whispering murmur echoed in Ning Lu's ears. He left Jushin's spear on the weapon rack and then came to the disordered country. Ning Lu's psychic vision spread, touching the constantly expanding and contracting orb of light, pulling Howard into the disordered country. My lord, my fleet has arrived at Abyss Port and is ready to launch an attack. Very good, Ning Lu said, seeing a hint of sadness on Howard's face. Is there anything else? The 6th battle group encountered the Basmimanic people in the Weeping Star system, and Pasquale was killed in battle. Flamini led 13 royal court monks, slaughtered countless beasts, destroyed the teleportation jamming device, and subsequently eliminated the Xenos that had invaded the star system in the ensuing battle. He achieved a glorious victory. Howard said with a sigh. He had also encountered the Basmimanic people. These metallic beast-like Xenos are powerful warriors. Flamini leading 13 men into a Xeno warship without a single loss was nothing short of a miracle. Howard gathered his thoughts and stated the main purpose of his prayer. The 6th battle group routed the main force of the Basmimanic people, but suffered considerable losses, and now there is no chapter master. Flamini, as the highest-ranking noble in the battle group, is temporarily acting as commander. Convey my order. Flamini is to be appointed lord of the 6th battle group, Ning Lu commanded. He then thought of Howard mentioning the metallic skin of the Basmimanic people, which possessed powerful defenses and was likely a potion ingredient. And he needed to establish real-time inter-system communication with the 6th battle group. Flamini, having been saved by him, was completely loyal to himself, so he spoke. Tell him the ritual procedure and instruct him to pray to me. The sacrifice is 2 sets of Basmimanic people's metallic skins. Yes, my lord, Howard acknowledged. Black mist enveloped Howard's body, sending him back to arbitration. As the black mist receded, Howard slowly rose after praising the Black Emperor. He walked out of the altar, and after exiting the door, the brain cat immediately came to his side. He left the dormitory and came to the office. Howard arrived at the office and looked at Flamini, who was waiting. Congratulations, the Gene Father has decided that you will be the chapter master. Flamini was first delighted, then asked. But I haven't received the order. Did the astropathic choir master receive the order? You will soon know. This is what I am here to tell you. Howard walked towards a black scale, placed his hand on it, and infused it with psychic vision. The lucky one noticed that as the patterns on the ground lit up one by one, psychic vision rapidly spread, covering the entire office. The diviner psychic felt his connection with the warp completely severed. Encountering such a situation for the first time, Flamini couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. The lucky one felt that his Beyonder abilities had not disappeared. His super-high psychic vision could still perceive his surroundings, and the physical and brain enhancements brought by the robot had not been lost. He gazed at the ground patterns, discovering that they were complex designs composed of a series of geometric shapes such as triangles, quadrilaterals, and pentagrams. Flamini's superhuman brain allowed him to instantly determine that there were a total of 33 shapes. This is a sigil created by Father, similar in function to the Sohm sigil created by Lord Magnus, which is to isolate this place and prevent others from prying. But unlike Lord Magnus, who is the only one who can use it, Hather and Ahriman cannot complete it. The royal court monk can also complete it. Of course, it requires a sufficiently deep understanding of it. Currently, only 5 people, including myself, the original body servant, the librarian, and the Death Lord, have mastered it. The lucky one's eyes gleamed as he stared intently at the mysterious sigil on the ground. I believe you will soon begin to study it, but for now, let me tell you something more important. The Black Emperor's prayer ritual. 3 standard hours later, after Flamini saluted Howard with thanks, he carried 2 Basmimanic people's metallic skins and walked into the altar. To expedite the ritual, Howard generously allowed him temporary use. The items on the altar were all arranged, but Flamini still cautiously checked them once more. After confirming that the black iron scale on his left and the cast iron, Monarch's iron law, on his right were all in their correct positions, he walked to the candelabrum. Flamini's palm hovered over the candlewick, rubbing it to ignite the candle with psychic vision. After lighting 11 candles, some upright and some inverted, he took out a ceremonial dagger from his person. Flamini calmed his excited heart and chanted in Dun language, "In the name of the Black Emperor, you are sanctified." Psychic vision burst forth from the dagger's tip, and Flamini stepped around, an invisible power surging outwards. Without needing to activate psychic vision, the lucky one felt that a wall made of psychic vision had indeed formed around him, excluding all impure things. Subsequently, Flamini took a deep breath and entered the Telema meditation state. After his body, mind, and soul quieted down, he knelt on the black onyx cushion and recited the formal incantation in Dun language. The Black Emperor of the Order Shadows. Quote. By the fifth recitation, Flamini felt a sudden gust of wind within the sealed psychic vision wall. Amidst the surging black mist, a mysterious nation of disorder slowly opened its door to him. The lucky one felt that as the black mist enveloped him, an invisible, incomprehensible, and irresistible force was exerted upon him. Flamini came to his senses, already in the mysterious nation of disorder. The lucky one felt that his surroundings were shrouded in mist, and since he awakened as a psychic, he had never felt his perception so limited. After being granted power by the Gene Father, he had never experienced this again. This is the great power of the Black Emperor. Flamini knelt on the ground, devoutly praising the majestic figure in the depths of the black mist. My lord. Ning Lu nodded slightly, his gaze sweeping over the metallic garments stacked on either side of Flamini. Judging from the psychic vision radiance, it should be psychic vision material. It should be sequence 6 level potion ingredients, but not those already unlocked on the blasphemy slate. My potion is about to be digested, and then I will be able to unlock the remaining half of the potion formula. The Baron of Corruption's gaze fell back on Flamini. You have mastered the power I bestowed upon you. Yes, my lord, the same as the previous 2 times. Soon, I will bestow new power upon you. Ning Lu thought, and through telepathy, sent the Euclidean sigil to Flamini. The sigil he comprehended, relying on his own geometry ability, was understood from geometric shapes, and thus he named it the Euclidean sigil. Thank you for your bestowal, my lord. I will certainly study diligently. Black mist engulfed Flamini, sending him back to arbitration. Ning Lu then went to the first level of space, instructing the space monkey to prepare the Calamity Priest potion using Calamity Mantis and other materials, and then bestowed it upon Flamini. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.